It is a hump day edition of the program. He is Diesel. I am Cole Bryson. Give me your best hump day, Diesel.
Hump day.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Ladies and gentlemen, glad to be with you today on this hump day edition of Wire to Wire. The NFL draft is 3 weeks away, and I do have a fun game to start the program. Everybody likes a game, right? Everybody likes a game until they're not good at it. They quit, they take their ball, and they go home. But other than that, typically everybody likes a game. This game that we're going to start the program with, this example of head-to-head, I guess you could call it, would be a good way to preface what we're going to do here. But anyways, I have done some research, Diesel, on the top quarterback prospects in this year's draft. We also have a local quarterback that is going to go in the draft. We just don't know exactly where yet in Spencer Rattler.
He'll go in the UFL draft.
Ooh, that would not be good. That would not be good at all. So what I wanted to do in this very first segment.
I'm going to get labeled a hater. I'm going to get labeled a tater.
That's okay.
Real quick.
That's okay. We all have to be something.
Okay, I got family ties to Clemson, but I'm not a Clemson fan.
Right.
If that makes sense. See, we're honest here about our allegiances.
For sure. So what we're going to do in this very first segment, and we invite you to play along as well by texting the show 71307, we're going to do our best. Diesel and I are going to put our draft hats on. We're going to take the hats that we're wearing now off and put our draft hats on.
I didn't do my hair today.
I did not either. That's why I have a hat on as well. We are going to try our best to see where Rattler truly ranks out of this year's quarterback prospects. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at Spencer Rattler, his career, right? We saw him up close and personal. We know what he was at Oklahoma, but we also are going to take a look at the statistics for Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy, Drake Maye, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, and even include Jordan Travis of FSU. I want to kind of do a head-to-head, Diesel, and go through and figure out where you and I have Spencer Rattler ranked, because I do think Spencer Rattler will have a promising NFL future. I do think he has the characteristics and traits needed in the NFL to make a successful NFL quarterback. So that's what I want us to do. I want us to start with Spencer Rattler versus the absolute best of the best. They tell us, Diesel, the experts tell us that this year, Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams is going to be the pick. Caleb Williams is going to be the guy. He's going to be the future of the NFL. He's going to be the guy who turns Chicago around. Whether you believe that or not, we're going to compare Spencer Rattler head-to-head versus each of these, but we're going to start with Caleb Williams. Just before we even get into statistics, before we even get into the stats, because the stats are interesting. I do like looking at stats.
We do have a tendency to believe what the draft experts say.
And I don't like that.
Right. We just hear, okay, Mel Kiper with your big stupid hair, you're an expert. What makes you an expert?
Yeah.
I don't know, he's the guy on TV who talks about it. I guess that's what makes him the expert.
So let's decide for ourselves,
Right.
okay? Let's decide for ourselves. Let's look at Spencer Rattler's career stats versus Caleb Williams' career stats. I'm going to pull up Caleb Williams' career stats, and I want to compare them to Spencer Rattler. Obviously, Spencer Rattler did transfer from Oklahoma. He was at Oklahoma in 2019, 2020, and 2021, Diesel. And then, as we all know, he came to South Carolina and played 2022 and 2023. In 2022 and 2023 for South Carolina, he threw for over 3,000 yards both seasons, which is very impressive. That was the third time in his career he threw for over 3,000 yards. He did it in 2020 at Oklahoma. In 2022 at South Carolina, he had 18 touchdowns compared to 12 interceptions. And then 2023, 19 touchdowns with only 8 interceptions. Comparing that to a guy in Caleb Williams, let's start with the most recent, Diesel. 2023, Spencer Rattler, as I said, 3,186 yards. Caleb Williams, 3,633 yards. Well, how many touchdowns did Caleb Williams throw? 30. How many interceptions? 5. So recently, it looks as if in 2023, last football season, Caleb Williams did have the more impressive season. How do we take that, though, and compare it to what those two are as a whole head-to-head?
Yeah, well, Spencer Rattler, we know that we've talked about it many times. He's a gunslinger. He's a guy who goes out there and he can make any throw. There's a reason why he was a 5-star, right? There was a reason why everybody was so in love with him when he was at Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. There was a reason why it was such a big deal for him to be picked up at South Carolina, because he was a gunslinger.
Sure.
You look back at his 2020 and 2021 stats while he was still at Oklahoma, 7 and 5 interceptions respectively in those 2 seasons. He got to South Carolina, jumped to 12. Okay, why? Well, he didn't have the offensive line at South Carolina that he had at Oklahoma. He didn't have the receivers that he had at Oklahoma. Maybe there's some balls in it. You'd have to have like a Sheldon Cooper type eidetic memory to go back and remember why did those 12 interceptions happen? But the point is, he wasn't good in his first season at South Carolina, 18 and 12. He really improved that in a big way in 2023. But Caleb Williams takes care of the ball.
He does.
He takes care of the ball. He had only 2 more interceptions in his 3-year career at Southern Cal than Spencer Rattler had in his 2022 season at South Carolina.
Well, what's interesting is, and I'm glad you brought this up earlier about the Mel Kipers of the world, because you are exactly right, Diesel. We have a tendency to always just fall into the same belief that Mel and Todd McShay have and say, oh, okay, well, Caleb's going to be the best guy. He was the best guy. 2022, for example, he had 24 more touchdowns in 2022 than Spencer Rattler did. Think about that. 24 more touchdowns in 2022. Caleb Williams did.
Game numbers.
Video games, absolutely. So I will say this. While Mel Kiper, while the draft experts are telling us that Caleb Williams is the guy, I understand why. He looks good, obviously, on paper. The film, if you use the eye test, the film will show you that he is just as talented, if not more talented, than any other quarterback coming out of the draft. However, one thing I would say for this example, Spencer Rattler versus Caleb Williams. I will not stand here today and say that Spencer Rattler's better than Caleb Williams. I'm not saying that. However, I will say to our audience and to you, Diesel, what I've learned about the NFL is your situation matters. Where you land matters, and it matters tremendously. It matters tremendously. The situation you're in, the head coach that you have, the offensive coordinator that you have, the offensive line. There are so many factors that go into your success in the NFL, right? We haven't seen Trevor Lawrence, for example, really shine like we thought he would. Situation matters a lot. My point is, sure, Caleb Williams is far superior than Spencer Rattler, right? However, if you're telling me that Spencer Rattler, Diesel, lands in a better situation, maybe a Kansas City, or maybe, I don't know a Houston, somewhere where he can learn from a C.J. Stroud or a Patrick Mahomes. If he lands in a better situation, Rattler does, and you're telling me Caleb Williams is going to go to Chicago, and that's where he's going to spend his career, I'm not sold that we're going to see Caleb Williams that everyone thinks we are. Justin Fields is a very good quarterback.
We never do, yeah.
And what happened? Justin Fields is done.
We never do that. I mean, I have a huge problem with the way the NFL draft is set up. I have a huge problem with being able to tank for players. I have a huge problem with taking the best players out of college and putting them on the worst possible teams. I mean, you think about it. None of these guys have ever played in this scenario before. Caleb Williams was probably on an elite high school team, right? Probably on an elite middle school team. He had the best that you could possibly have at the middle school level playing around him. Well, the same thing in high school, same thing in college. You get him to the pros, he's completely outgunned. So you're putting these guys into bad situations, and then we judge them on 2 or 3 seasons in a bad situation. It is an unfair way to judge these guys. I mean, I think we should totally overhaul the way the NFL draft is structured.
J.J. McCarthy, for example, he just won a national championship. Let's look at him head-to-head versus Spencer Rattler. Here's what's interesting, Diesel. J.J. McCarthy, 2022, 2 seasons ago, 2,719 yards. 2022, Spencer Rattler, 3,026 yards. Well, what about this past season? McCarthy, 2,981 yards. Spencer Rattler, 3,186 yards. Spencer Rattler, as far as the yardage goes, not very far off. Again, Rattler was 19-8 this past season, 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 18-12 the season before. McCarthy, 22-4 last season, very impressive. 22-5 in 2022.
Well, clearly J.J. McCarthy wasn't asked to do as much at Michigan. You know, when you have elite pieces all around you who can all share the load, and can all contribute offensively, then it takes the pressure off of you.
Sure.
It means the defense can't just key in on one guy because, I mean, defenses playing South Carolina knew you stop Spencer Rattler, you're going to stop the Gamecocks. They just knew it, right?
Right.
You pressure Spencer Rattler. You get him out of the pocket. You make him run. You get him out of his rhythm and his timing. You can stop the South Carolina offense. You couldn't do that at Michigan. You couldn't do that. I mean, J.J. McCarthy didn't have to put up video game numbers to be successful at Michigan. And Billy D on the stream says Rattler would excel in San Francisco or Dallas. You're a Dallas fan. Would you want Spencer Rattler on your team? If it meant Dak Prescott going down, and I don't know Dallas's QB2 situation, but just for the sake of argument, if Spencer Rattler as a rookie was your QB2, how good would you feel if you saw him putting on his helmet and trotting out on
I love it.
You'd love it.
I love it.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think, Billy D, to your point, in San Fran or Dallas, sure. I think that's a good point. As a Cowboys fan, of course I would love it. I'd love to see Rattler get a chance because I'll tell you this, Diesel, talking about the eye test, right? In college, you said it earlier, level of competition, who they're playing against. For example, we can compare Drake Maye's numbers to Spencer Rattler. Well, what conference did Drake Maye play in? The ACC. Of course, Drake Maye's numbers, 24 touchdowns and only 9 interceptions last season, 38 touchdowns in 2022. Of course, his numbers are going to be a lot better. However, when you see the eye test of these players, you see that Spencer Rattler has it. I'm not saying Spencer Rattler is going to be an elite quarterback in the NFL. I'm really not saying that. However, I will say this. I do think, as I said, you give me Rattler in a good situation compared to Caleb Williams in Chicago.
Yeah. Well,
think about it, man.
Give me Rattler on an NFL team with a good offensive line and good blocking tight ends and a good blocking running back.
Heck yeah.
You're in good shape because now he gets to create and he's got the size on him. Okay. He's got the size. He's 217 pounds. He's not overly tall. He's only 6'1". He looks a lot bigger than 6'1". It's weird. When you look at Spencer Rattler, he does huge.
He does.
But he's got the ability to create with his legs. So if you put him in the right situation, he certainly can be successful in the NFL.
Madcraft also says, not going to lie, Dallas might be a solid fit, talking about Rattler. We compared his numbers to Caleb Williams. We've compared him to McCarthy. Obviously, as I said, Drake Maye at UNC, yeah, his numbers were incredible. But again, ACC numbers, when you're playing against the SEC, it does matter to me. Real quickly, before we go to break, Diesel, I will look at Jaden Daniels, who did play in the SEC at LSU. Obviously, he was at Arizona State 19, 20, and 21. Last season, Jaden Daniels just racked up the yardage, 3,812 yards, 40 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. So if you do want to look at a SEC versus SEC comparison, compared to Rattler's 19 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, Jaden Daniels just whooped Spencer Rattler last season.
Well, I know we're kind of running tight on this break here, but we've got a couple more quarterbacks that we want to get to, including Michael Penix and Bo Nix. If it's my money, if it's my team, I don't know how you go after a guy like J.J. McCarthy. I think he's kind of off the board. Yeah, he's a winner, but he's not been a guy. If I'm on a team that's got a bad situation that really needs a quarterback, I'm not going after that guy. I'm going after a guy like Jaden Daniels, or I'm going after Bo Nix. 2 dudes who take care of the football. Jaden Daniels had a 95.6 QBR last season. Bo Nix had a 91.2. Bo Nix 45 and 3 touchdowns, interceptions, 4,500 yards in his final season there at Oregon. Jaden Daniels was just magical and electric down there on the Bayou as well. Those two guys, if I'm a smart GM, those are the two guys that I'm looking at.
Jaden.
I'm not looking at Caleb because, Caleb paints his fingernails pink and wears pink lipstick and puts pacifiers in his mouth, and we're supposed to assume that dude's okay in the head. No, I don't think so.
Who was the other one you said? Jaden and who? You would
Jaden
look at?
Bo
Nix.
Bo. Bo would certainly be a late round or late first round or second round kind of quarterback. I mean, this class is so deep that you're going to have great quarterbacks getting pushed to the second round because the wide receiver class is so good. That's going to be interesting to watch and see if any of these guys fall into the second round, or do we have that many desperate teams who could go after?
I can't wait, man.
The 6 guys. There's 6 legitimate first round quarterbacks on this board.
Sure.
If they weren't all coming out in the same season, it's kind of like what happened. Somebody help me out with the exact year, but the year that Taj Boyd came out of Clemson, if that quarterback class hadn't been so deep, he'd have been a first round guy.
Could have been.
Instead, things happen the way that they happened. Yesterday, if you guys missed it, we had a fantastic conversation with Dawn Staley, the head coach of the #1 in the nation South Carolina Gamecocks basketball team. We did it late in the show yesterday, so we want to bring that back to you. We'll replay it coming up in the very, very next segment here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. We are the Fan Upstate. It is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, broadcasting live here today from the Ingalls Market Studios, 25 Garlington Road in Greenville. Yesterday, we were treated late in the show to just a phenomenal interview. Probably the best live interview anywhere in the state of South Carolina yesterday. We had Dawn Staley, head coach of the number one in the country, South Carolina Lady Gamecocks, and it feels like this team is being slightly disrespected in this tournament right now, right? It feels like LSU and Iowa sucked up so much of the energy and so much of the attention in college basketball that, well, the college basketball world was forgetting about the Gamecocks just a little bit. We had a fantastic conversation with Dawn Staley yesterday. I want to get out of the way and let you guys listen to it because it did occur late in the show yesterday. We wanted to bring it to you right here, right now. Here we go with a replay of our interview with Dawn Staley.
It is now time to bring in probably the guest that we will never top. The best, we usually save it for last, but we're going to do it early on in this program. She is the head women's basketball coach at South Carolina, Coach Dawn Staley. Coach, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for making time to join us today. It means more than you know, and we'll get right to it. But before we get into your team, Coach, I got to know, I have to ask your initial reaction to what you saw last night with Caitlin Clark taking down LSU. What'd you think after that one was all said and done?
I thought it was a great game. I over 12 million viewers.
Wow.
I knew it would be all eyes on that particular game. I knew it would be a good game. I thought that LSU gave it all they had. They out rebounded them by plus 20. But Caitlin Clark is a difference maker. I mean, she makes everybody look good, and she looks good herself. And when she's able to play as stat filling as she does, it makes them a hard win. Like you don't escape winning when she's able to do all the things that's in her bag.
Joined now by Dawn Staley, head coach of the number one in the country, South Carolina Gamecocks. Coach, I went to the gym after our show yesterday, and you know, if you've ever been to these, big gyms, there's a huge array of workout equipment. Everybody likes to stay as far apart from each other as they possibly can. Well, yesterday, every single machine directly in front of the one TV playing the game last night was filled. Everybody was standing around. There was 5 or 6 other people not even working out anymore. They were just standing there watching the game. Now, obviously, the wave of women's college basketball is riding as high as it's ever ridden right now. And a big part of that, obviously, is Caitlin Clark. I just want to know, in your mind, is the next Caitlin Clark, is the next superstar of women's college basketball wearing garnet and black right now?
If they were, you wouldn't know it because they'll select somebody else. I like who we have. I like Malaysia Fuwali for her generational talent. I like her because she's learning the game, and a lot of she's not learning through always playing heavy minutes, but she's learning through watching. She's learning through being in the action. She's learning in practice. I think when it's all said and done, her impact on the game is going to bring the kind of attraction and the kind of eyeballs that Caitlin's bringing.
Without a doubt. Coach, I want to ask you, at what point this season, was it preseason or regular season, at what point did you look at this team and realize, man, this team really could make a Final Four run? At what point did that happen for you, Coach?
It happened when we flew into Cleveland today. Seriously, I know a lot of people look at the undefeated record, and a lot of people look at just the competition we played and beat. When you're as close to it as we are as coaches, you see our deficiencies, like right there in front of us. And that is the very thing that keeps us from actually really gulping the Kool-Aid. We're sipping it. But I think when you're so close to it, you don't know. Like I knew about our freshies in their freshman year because we had experience, point guard play and small forward play. And then after that, they played on a high level their entire careers, and they practiced at a high level on their entire careers. This group is catching me off guard because of how we started in June, in July, and then when they came back in August, like it just didn't feel like we were in shape enough. It just didn't feel like we were connected enough. And I think it's all because we as coaches are too close to the situation, and then we come out and to play the way we played in Paris. And you would think, hey, this is not real. This is an anomaly. And then they come out and we beat Maryland, and then we come out and we win the SEC tournament championship. And then now we as coaches have to give credit where credit is due. This team is battle tested, and they don't like losing. Even though we haven't lost a game, we lose a lot of games and drills against our highlighters, our male practice squad, and it burns them up. You can see them trying to figure things out, trying to not feel what they're feeling in practice and losing drills and scrimmages. And then they found a way to win each and every time that our back was against the wall. So I mean, it's surprising, and we're going to continue to ride this wave because they got us here.
Well, Coach, you talked about it there.
Basketball team.
You talked about it there. The sipping the Kool-Aid just a little bit. Now, I love it when you check your players who maybe get a little bit headstrong here and there. There was that press conference a few nights ago where you looked at one of your players and said, you just gave up a 17-point lead, right? So you check them. I want to know who checks Dawn Staley.
Oh, they check me all the time. they do. They can't wait until I fall off the wagon anywhere, and then they're right there, and it's cool. Like it really is refreshing to be around a team like this because they're not a serious group. They're not. They have fun, but what they do is they hold each other accountable. Like even today, and it's funny stuff. Even today, Breezy Hall, we were playing against a zone, and Breezy Hall went in there, and she jumped up in the air, and she jackknifed, and then you could hear Tahina Pow say, "Air Breezy," like it was the natural reaction for them to say that to each other. So they get on each other, they uplift each other. They have a really good balance, and it's really cool for them to have developed that. I don't even think I've been around a team that has held each other accountable and that don't want each other to look bad, and they have high praise for each other. So it's a pretty cool dynamic. So they're teaching me there's more ways to skin a cat.
Coach, we hear this word a lot in sports, and the word that we hear a lot is fate. And I want to know, when you have been coaching as long as you have, do you believe in fate? Do you believe in the ball having to bounce your way? Do you believe in having to catch a couple of breaks? Or do you believe in your center having to hit a three-point shot to win against Tennessee in the SEC championship? How would you answer that question if someone ever came up to you and said, does this season feel like a season of fate?
I'm a believer in divine intervention, and I know I say things after the game that glorifies God, and a lot of people have some issues with it. Some people will join in and say some positive things, but I do think you reflect on what happened last year. I reflect on what happened last year to us in the NCAA tournament in the Final Four, and we had the best team in the country, and we didn't win for one reason or another. And then on paper, we don't have the best team in the country at the beginning of the season. And then we find ourselves right back here with a new starting lineup, with a totally different, inexperienced team to play on this level, and we're undefeated. And I do think God has a funny way of making you understand his power. And I do think it's his power, whether we win or lose, because I just think there are valuable lessons when it comes to whatever belief you have. We all analyze our lives very differently. If you grew up in the church, it has a religious meaning. If you didn't, it has some other meaning. But I choose the route in which the environment that I grew up in, and I think there's a higher power in this team. I do. I just do. When things happen the way they've happened, that are inexplicable, you can't explain them. You have to. There's meaning behind it, and there's no way that you would have told me that this team would have been undefeated. There's no way you could tell me that Camila Cardozo would make a 3-point shot, the first of her career, to get us into the SEC tournament championship. Like, seriously, like fate, however you want to describe it. There's something a little bit different than what usually goes on in a basketball season for us.
Coach Dawn Staley joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. She's got her team back in the Final Four, chasing another national championship. They'll play Friday night at 7:00, taking on the number 3 seed NC State. Coach, you made the waves. You brought it up there. You made waves after that Oregon State game, saying if you don't believe in God, there's something wrong with you. And you were talking about it just as you just did there, in the context of all the adversity that your team had gone through after last season and the personnel changes and being able to get back to this point. Personally, I don't understand the controversy of your statement, but the internet will get a hold of anything and twist it and change it into what they want it to be. But furthering that point, media training is such a big part of the game in this era. What advice do you give to your players, number one, to create their own stories, but then number two, to not let the buzz of their stories and the people around them distract them and take them off their path?
I mean, it's just that. I mean, you have to be prepared for whatever comes out of your mouth. I mean, we're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds, and you're dealing with me. I'm over 50. I can handle the comments that I say after games. Obviously, I do want to address that. I mean, obviously, I don't personally know people who are responding to me, and I don't know the people who I'm offending. It was a figure of speech, and if you could not comprehend that, then it wasn't for you. It wasn't for you. I mean, I think we say that all the time. Like, who are we kidding? Like, so I mean, you end things with. I just wanted the people to know the magnitude of how I feel about what God has done for me in my life. But as far as our players, they understand that if you put yourself out there like that, you have a responsibility to all the things that come back to you in a positive or negative way. You can choose to address them or not. It's your call. It's your choice. And if you don't think you can handle it, then they got a coach that will step in. I don't have a problem stepping in to come to the rescue of our player who may go out on a limb and say some things that they're feeling in the moment. We have all said and done things that we're not proud of, but certainly no one just goes out there to to upset someone to offend someone. No one really does that. So I'll address it because you brought it up, but also address it because I didn't mean to offend anyone. And if I did offend you, it wasn't for you.
Right.
It wasn't for you. Like, you got all these different people that are commenting on it that probably don't know me from Adam. And if you were to go and take a look at who I am, if you would take the extra step, one extra step, because sometimes I do a little research on somebody that if I'm gonna respond to something out there, I want to see who people really are and what they stand for and what they're about, and know that I won't say anything out of context.
From yesterday's show with
Wow.
Dawn Staley, who's got her team back in the Final Four, chasing another national championship for her Lady Gamecocks. You know, we were doing the interview yesterday, and afterwards, you and I both looked at each other and said, "That's an impressive lady." That's an impressive lady, and you know it. You kind of feel it when you're in the presence of somebody who's an impressive person.
She makes it tough, Diesel. She makes it really, really tough for Clemson fans and other people who aren't necessarily South Carolina fans to not pull for her. Really, she does.
It doesn't happen very often in the Clemson-South Carolina rivalry that somebody switches sides, but I guarantee you, every single Clemson fan is thinking to themselves, man, I wish we could get her. I wish we had her. I wish she was on our side. You got to love that lady.
She's the absolute best. All right, coming up next, I read an article today that I want to bring to the table for you, Diesel, as well as our audience. Fast food time limits. Are you kidding me? Please don't tell me this is true. Fast food restaurants. I hope you're listening. Fast food restaurants are imposing time limits on customers who choose to dine in.
What? What?
Did you hear that right, Diesel? I saw an article today, and this one is from the New York Post, and I'll give credit to them for the publication. But this makes...
You sure this isn't a holdover
No,
April Fool's joke?
No. Sadly, Diesel, this is absolutely real. So what it says is an increasing number of fast food chains are imposing limits on how long patrons have to gobble their burger down and fries, right? Recently, a Reddit post detailed a half-hour eat-and-run policy as readers shared similar stories of fast food outlets restricting their chow time. One lady said, "I work right next door and I saw this as I was entering," exclaimed a stunned commenter in the caption of said post. The accompanying photo on this article shows the sign. Obviously, our viewers can't see the sign, but this is something that is happening nationwide. I don't know if it's happening in our neck of the woods yet, but from what they are saying, they are imposing this 30-minute limit while consuming food to help the turnover rate of bringing in new customers for the restaurant. I don't know if I really believe that or not, but it says no loitering, please. Time limit while consuming food, 30 minutes. Your initial reaction, good or bad?
First of all, who's taking 30 minutes to eat a fast food burger? That's kind of the point, right? Is it's fast food. It's made quickly. You eat it quickly. You're on the run. So I'm wondering exactly who this is aimed at, right? I don't think this is aimed at your typical go in on your lunch break, grab a burger and fries and get out the door. It's not aimed at those people. I think it's aimed more, like it says here, it's aimed at the loiterers, those who just come in and they just grab a drink and they just sit around and hang out with their friends for a couple of hours. I think that has to be who this is actually aimed at. I don't know what they think they're going to accomplish with this policy. And I don't know that I've ever been into a fast food restaurant where I've said, man, I can't get a table in here. First of all, most people use the drive-through these days anyway.
For sure.
Right? Most people don't want to go inside and deal with people face-to-face for anything. We've lost our ability to do that in this country. But like, I don't think I've ever walked into a restaurant except for maybe a Chick-fil-A, because let's face it, they're good and they're packed because they're good, where most of the tables and chairs are full. Like, I genuinely don't know who this is aimed for other than undesirable types who are hanging out longer in the waiting room or in the restaurant than they should. So I'm not exactly sure what this is all about. We're live here from the Ingalls Market Studios, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan if you want to weigh in on this policy that we don't know if it's the one store, it's a chain of stores.
It looks as if McDonald's is doing it, Wendy's is doing it, and those are the two that are starting this. And I completely
I've ever spent more than 30 minutes at a McDonald's is when I ate the McDonald's and then I feel a rumble in my tummy and I got to go to the bathroom at McDonald's.
So I completely agree with what you said, Diesel, and Madcraft pointed it out as well on the stream. When's the last time you ate at a fast food restaurant where all the tables were full? Turn over my butt, says Madcraft. And we do have a caller who wants to chime in as well, but I'll say this. Maybe they're trying to eliminate what we used to do in high school, right? Everybody in high school had the one place where you went. For us, it wasn't a fast food restaurant where I grew up on Highway 9, but there was an establishment we all went to in high school, like on especially like on Fridays, right? When you got out of school for the week, you'd go and you would socialize.
You hang out until it's time for the football
That's
game.
right. And a lot of people there weren't eating, so maybe that's the reason for that. Maybe they're trying to cut down on teenagers, or I don't know.
Like where, and I think we lost the caller there. So caller, please get back.
Oh, I think we got Buzzer. Let's see if he's there. You there, Buzzer?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, let us know what you think, man.
Well, I do a lot of traveling in different cities, like in some of your major cities like Denver and Phoenix. You got a lot of vagrants and homeless people, and they congregate there to sell drugs, they just get there and congregate. And I think I've had nephews that their job was to make sure people didn't sit in the McDonald's lobby, over a certain amount of time, because it does draw away customers. And I think it's more for that kind of thing.
So that answers the question there. It's to potentially run off the less desirable element of customers who are spending extra time in your restaurant. It's not aimed at the traveler who just pops in to grab a meal and get back on the road.
Hey, thanks for the call, Buzzer. We appreciate it. 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663 is the way you can get in touch with the show.
I just want to know, where are the managers with the cajones to walk out to somebody who's sitting in a booth too long and being like, yo, get out of here.
Or what do they say? Like, show me your receipt. Show me your receipt.
You're not buying anything. Get out of here. If you want to sit, if you want to hang out anymore, you're going to have to walk up to the register. You're going to have to buy something because you've been here for an hour.
Some good text coming in. 71307 starts your message with FAN. This isn't new, says Atolo. Waffle House waitresses are flipping your table as fast as possible. Another texter says one word, Wi-Fi. Another texter, that is going to hurt my tendency to stay at Chick-fil-A for 2 hours while my kids play on the playground, says Chancey. That's a good one.
But see, Chancey, the difference is those chicken nuggets, they smell so good. You're going to go buy another 8-pack of nuggets and hang out, and that's all they want.
Two texters chiming in. I think we all are agreeing on the top of the top when it comes to fast food chains. Come to Chick-fil-A, says a texter. Get your food quicker than anywhere else, and you have no time limits. Eat more chicken. And then lastly, Atolo says, I didn't have a TV in college. I used to crash McDonald's for 3 hours to watch Notre Dame games every week.
Yeah, I
watch a Notre Dame game in McDonald's?
At McDonald's?
Wow.
That's wild.
There's a
something
first.
Else that fast food restaurants are doing that piss me off, Cole. And I would love to hear you guys weigh in. 71307. Start your text with keyword FAN, or you can call us on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. Every fast food restaurant has a corporate time limit for how long they want you sitting at the window, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is to remind the employees to speed up. Part of it is to make sure that customers aren't sitting there for so long not getting their food. But more and more and more, we're seeing fast food restaurants ask you to pull forward. Like, your food isn't ready in a timely fashion. So what do?
Please pull forward, sir.
They don't have the ability to take your order, wrap it up in a paper wrapper, put it in a bag, throw a straw and a couple napkins in there, and sling it out the window in a usual amount of time. So what are they doing? They're going over the limit of time that they have set by corporate to churn your car. So they ask you to pull forward, and then they restart the clock. Well, the truth is your clock is still running, right?
Yeah.
You're up there. And I've been in that situation a couple of times.
Me too.
Where they've forgotten that I was out there. Like, I have actually driven back around the store and been like, yo, I've been pulling up. I pulled ahead like you asked me to. You never brought my food out.
So
what's going on? And see, I got a big problem with that, because I know what the timer is for. It's for corporate. And if they see that they are moving cars fast enough and they are getting people through the line fast enough, then these store managers are being bonused based on this performance. It's a performance review for every single car.
Right.
But they're cheating that performance review. And it drives me absolutely insane. Like, what do I as a customer have the right to say, no, I'm not going to pull forward. I'm going to sit right here.
I've thought about
until you finish my meal and hand it out the window. I'm not going to pull forward, because then it's going to take them extra time to grab everything, send an employee who should be doing their job to walk all the way to the side door, all the way out to my car, hand it off. Like, it's laziness from the fast food restaurant. It reduces their efficiency, and it pisses you off because you now can't look into the window and be like, yo, come on, give me my food.
I also think in that situation, I hate that situation. I think that in that situation, you should be pre-warned before you order that you're going to be asked, And 99% of the time you're asked to pull forwards because the food that you order is not done, right? They've got chicken or whatever.
And the customer behind you, theirs might be ready.
For sure.
And they're asking you to get out of their way.
I think
Mad Craft says this is called drive time. It starts the moment you place your order and it stops when you pull off. It looks good for management.
I think that when you order, there should be a preface statement of, hey, our chicken is in the fryer. If you're ordering chicken, it's going to be another 3 to 5 minutes. We're going to ask you to pull up. And then I would probably leave and go to the next drive-thru. I'll be honest with you. That should be prefaced before you pull up to a drive-thru.
When I go to a fast food restaurant, I expect fast food, right?
Correct.
The whole point. I'm not expecting a gourmet meal here. I understand that the food is probably pre-cooked and all they have to do is put it in a wrapper, or it's already in a wrapper and it's sitting under a heat lamp. I understand that. I understand that I'm not going to get high-quality, nutritious food. But I want it fast. Like, that's the whole point. So when you make me pull forward because you're not ready, your food's not ready, they didn't cook it in time, or they ran out of something, like, that pisses me off. And it also pisses me off that we don't have we don't have a concept of making it up to people anymore. Like, you make a mistake, you put the wrong thing in the bag, they just say, here's the right thing, see you later. It's like, no, if you make a mistake, you need to make it up to me with a free Frosty or a coupon for the next time I come back. Something like that. See, you got me mad, Cole. That's a mistake. You got me mad. And I'm going to be in this funk for the rest of the show. And I'm going to continue this funk, and I'm going to continue ranting about things. Next, I'm going to tell you why spring games suck. That's next here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Tell me the truth. Do you believe that spring games still serve a real, actual purpose? This is a rhetorical question because I want you to think about it here for just a minute. Thanks for checking out the show, Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, right here on the Fan Upstate. If you're listening on the radio in Greenville, 97.7 FM, we thank you. If you're in Spartanburg listening at 97.1 FM, awesome. If you're listening anywhere else in the world via the Odyssey app, that is absolutely incredible. Just do us a favor and text into the show, 71307. Tell us where you're listening from. We would love to know just how far this show is reaching right here and now. Clemson set to have their spring game, the orange and white spring game, this Saturday at 1 o'clock. South Carolina will conduct theirs Saturday, April 20th at 7 p.m. at Williams-Brice Stadium in Columbia. But I think, Cole, that spring games are dumb. I think spring games are pointless, and we've turned them into this. Spring games haven't really meant anything other than a great opportunity to get fans energized, to get them back on campus, to maybe sell some merchandise, maybe get some more donation money out of them if you make people feel good. They don't do anything for me. Like you and I both know. You and I both know that athletically speaking, on the field, spring games are dumb. Like we don't learn anything at all about our teams in the spring game. It is a scripted dress scrimmage, nothing more, nothing less.
So the fans, I would agree that the fans don't learn anything. Now, a lot of the reason the fans don't learn anything is because the fans have no idea what's going on prior to the spring game that the coaches want to see. I would say that the spring games do matter in the sense, from a coaching standpoint, of the coaches during spring practice when they start in January, February, March. They have an idea of where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, where they need to improve. And you're right, it is scripted. It's a script of what they want to see from their certain players as the depth chart goes down from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And I do think that for the fans that go to the game, it's more of a hoorah, as you said. Gathering. It is a social gathering. However, I think the only people that the spring game is beneficial for are the players and the coaches, because I do think that for the players, those in-game reps against live, rather than them being just drills, live game, I think that helps the players. I also think that the coaches have certain things, like I would imagine they would have a list of certain things, like from Cade Klubnik, we need to see this, 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 and this. The quarterback coach wants to see this. The running back coach wants to see this from the running backs against this formation from the defense, and how the defense does with this look from the offense. So while I understand the fan perspective, while I understand that the spring game isn't the sexiest thing to ever go to, I do think that from the coaches and players' perspective, it does matter a lot.
Tell me what all of the things that you just laid out. Tell me what of those things can't be accomplished in a standard everyday practice, because they can. I know that normally in practice, the ones are probably going against the twos offensively and defensively. So why not? Okay, put the ones on each side against each other in practice. Why do we need to go through all of this pageantry to show us something that they could do in a practice any other day of the week? So here's what I'm going to tell you. And by the way, I just got a text from Atolo who just asked, why do you say cajones on the radio? Are you not allowed to say cajones on the radio? Well, yeah, we can say cajones on the radio. It's just fun to say cajones. And it's like it's a little piece of lingo, man. Something for the show. Cajones, something special on this show. So I'm going to give you a plan here, Cole, and I'm going to lay it out for you, I think, as simply as I possibly can. I'm not calling you dumb. I'm just saying for all the audience, I'm going to lay out some very simple reasons why the spring game needs to change, why in its current format it is completely pointless. And we'll kind of go point by point on this, and you tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong. So instead of playing yourselves, instead of a bunch of dudes going out on the field playing with themselves.
Yeah. That wouldn't be good.
Why don't we just reorganize the spring game as the annual FCS game? That's what needs to happen, okay? There's a reason why I come to this I come to this conclusion? Again, because a spring game it's a glorified practice.
Mhm.
It's entirely scripted. It's about as real as wrestling. Sorry, Mongo. Text into the show. Tell me that you'll pay for my mat fees. I got it. Okay. But here's my plan to make spring games matter again. Spring game needs to be your annual FCS game. Clemson, South Carolina, Coastal Carolina, the 3 FBS schools in the state of South Carolina can rotate between Furman, Wofford, Citadel, PC, and Charleston Southern, the other Division I schools in the state. Every year, because there's more FCS schools in the state, they'd have to play, 2 of them would have to play each other, but most years you'd rotate between Clemson and South Carolina. So you're still getting you're getting live reps between 2 players who haven't seen each other instead of 2 guys who have seen each other. They've been going head to head against each other in practice for weeks now. Like, you learn each other's tendencies. This way, you have real reps. You have real teams going at each other. You can sell your tickets. You can sell your concessions. You can sell pay-per-view TV streams through your official website. However you want to do it, you split the money. It keeps all of that money in state instead of playing an FCS team from 5 states away in the regular season that nobody cares about. It gets you a meaningful game slot added back to your regular season schedule. It frees it up so that you can play an additional conference game. If we're talking about the SEC that wants to go to 8 conference games, it means you have another out of conference opportunity to schedule whoever you want, if that's what you want to do with it. But we got to stop pretending like the FCS games mean things to the fans. Like, crazy things can happen, right?
The FCS games.
App State can go up and beat Michigan.
Gotcha.
It happens.
Yeah.
And I love it when it does. I absolutely love it when it does. But fans don't really care. It's almost always the lowest attended game of the season. So instead of playing that game in the regular season, just make that your spring game. You can have exhibitions. You can have skills competitions, however it is you choose to organize this thing, right? Get creative. Take it, turn it into basically the NFL, skills challenge at the end of the season if you want to, if that's what you choose to do with it. But move that FCS game out of the regular season, make it your spring game, make the FCS team whole, because they're going to need that for their budgets, right? We hear all the time that the FCS schools, they really need that $500,000 or $1 million or whatever it is. They need that. Well, it keeps the money going to the FCS school, keeps the money in state, gives you live reps against real, actual players from another team who are trying to stop you, not just let you go so that Cade can look good finally in his reps. Tell me where I'm wrong.
I'm not going to risk my quarterback or running back or star receiver or safety in that situation getting hurt in a real game in the spring.
But you got 4 months to get guys healthy again.
Yeah,
Somebody
but
gets hurt in a spring game. You got 4 months to get them healthy again.
Yeah, but I don't want to have.
That,
that's a bad
put
plan,
the
though.
padded helmet on them. You can't hit the quarterback.
Yeah, I just don't love the idea of like competition being that stiff in a spring game that's meaningless, because at the end of the day, the other team is going to want to win. They're going to have a chip on their shoulder because they're playing Clemson, right? Because they're like, oh, we can't beat Clemson. Okay, well, we're going to prove it. They're going to play hard. And my worry would be that I would get guys injured in a meaningless spring game. I hear you. I just think that you have to – it's like I've seen players get hurt in spring games before, but you have to navigate it with caution, because you do want to see valuable reps from your guys. But at the same time, if Lenore Sellers got hurt, in a spring game this year –
get hurt anytime. How many non-contact injuries do we see that derail seasons or chunks of seasons?
He can get hurt anytime, but
it happens all the time.
All I'm saying is adding a real opponent increases the chances.
So Madcraft echoes your point here. He says, my own middle linebacker is not going to lower the boom on my star running back in the spring game. Some FCS kid looking to make a name for himself might, and injuries ensue. See, Madcraft, I don't like to live my life scared like that.
Yeah, but if you're a head coach, you have to,
Well,
your
Matt
job
Pratt
depends
says,
on it.
Basically make it a joint scrimmage like they do in NFL training camp. Exactly. It's a preseason game. It's a preseason. We see preseason games in the NFL every year. Very rarely Very rarely do your stars, your ones, get hurt in preseason. If you're only putting Cade Klubnik out there for a series or 2 or 3 or whatever it might be, the risk of injury is extremely low.
Another point
extremely low. And I don't like living scared. I would rather have real live reps against somebody who's trying to stop you.
I hear you. Another point I would say to play the devil's advocate is if I'm the coach of Clemson and I'm having to go up against another opponent in the spring game where that game doesn't matter, I do think there's value, Diesel, in being able to get the looks you want from your defense against your offense. Because when you play against a team in the fall, when the season matters, you're not going to be able to tell that defense, hey, I need you guys in the 3-4 front or whatever so that we can see how our offense can exploit that or whatever. My point is I think that there is value to a spring game because you can control everything, right? You can control what the defense is in as well as the offense. If Dabo wants to see this defense versus this offensive look and vice versa.
Yeah, but he can do all of those things in practice.
Right, but a practice is completely different than a real game rep.
But it's not a real game. It's a spring game.
But going against a spring game, a spring game's not the same as practice. Live reps against an opponent in a real game is completely different.
That's what I'm trying to give you is live reps against a real opponent in as close to a game situation as you can get. Now you can do whatever it takes to tell everybody to not go so hard, right? I mean, I don't understand why this is such a difficult concept for people to get. Chauncey says spring games are fan service. I go every year that I can make it. I've been to spring games. Spring games are a blast. I've never been to a South Carolina spring game, but I've been to a Clemson spring game, and they put out the spread. It's great. They bring the inflatables.
Sure.
Cheerleaders are painting little tiger paws on little girls' faces. It's great.
Right.
They're great. I don't want to eliminate the whole thing of a spring game. I'm just trying to say, like, isn't it worthwhile to get the FCS school off your regular season schedule? People say it all the time. Let's just eliminate. Let's get rid of the spring. Let's get rid of the FCS game. Well, then what are you going to do with those FCS schools who really need that?
Are you allowed to play I don't know, NCAA wise, be an interesting question. Are you allowed to play a real game in April though? You know what I mean? Like,
well, if it's a scrimmage, if it's an inter-squad scrimmage.
It's interesting. Billy D says last year's spring game was when South Carolina fans started to get hyped up for the future with Lenore Sellers. That's true. That's true. And again, I do think that having a spring game is valuable. Diesel's point is what he's saying is it just should be against a different opponent. Text line 71307 starts your text with the word fan. As you said, Chancey said they're for the fan service. Another texter says, I think the games are great for the young fans and for the parents who can't afford to take them to the actual games.
Yep. Wow.
Completely agree with Cole. As someone who played, you can't simulate in-game reps at practice. Playing with themselves, the Expos and Yankees did that a ton when they adjusted their crotches. Thanks, Dave. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. Continue to get your text in, 71307. It's a great conversation. It's a great discussion. And I loved hearing everyone's opinion. I love hearing what the streamers have to say and the texters as well. But I do think at the end of the day, they're valuable. We both can agree on that because you do want to see where your team is, come April, because you then will turn the page to the summertime and see where you need to improve, right? You'll turn the page to the summertime and see what you need to get better at, where your weaknesses are. And at the end of the day, it does create a buzz.
I do think more people would go, though, if it were more real. Because right now it's completely manufactured and completely fake, right? It's completely fake.
Coaches are on the field.
Yeah. So why not make it just a little bit more real? And Madcraft here says, if you do it like the NFL and keep that scripted spring game concept between both teams, they could practice together all week. It could work.
It would have to stay as a practice, though, like they do in the NFL, because the NFL
what it is. It's what it already is. We need to stop acting like a spring game is an actual game.
It's more of a game than a joint practice. So, like when the Clemson plays Saturday, there will actually be live play. There will actually be play where it's dependent on the players to make interceptions and give possessions back to the defense. Joint practices are just, here's 3 plays, here's 6 plays, here's 9 plays. I do think there's a difference between scripted practices, joint practices like the NFL. I don't hate the idea of another team being in town, though. I don't hate that idea.
Yeah, just imagine, Charleston Southern coming up to Clemson for the spring game.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have Furman going out to Coastal Carolina for the spring game. Wofford would be in Columbia. And then it would be PC and I lost the other one off the top of my head. Citadel. They play each other that year.
Are there enough FC? I don't know.
There's 5 FCS schools in the state. There's 3 FBS schools.
What about nationwide? Do you think there's enough FCS schools nationwide to pair against every FBS school? That's a great question. But you're right. South Carolina, I think you could make it work.
There are 128 FCS schools
in the country.
In the country.
Wow. I didn't realize there was that many.
There are 134 FBS schools.
So it's pretty close.
And a couple of those are recent FCS schools that have moved up to FBS. Liberty is a fine example of that.
Right.
Sam Houston State, the couple of teams that just moved up into Conference USA have done that. Now, there are certainly states where it wouldn't work out. South Carolina, we have 5 and 3. It'd take me a minute to sit down and think of all the FCS schools in the state of North Carolina.
For sure.
I'm not saying it would be, there's a relative equal number of FCS and FBS schools in every state. So you may have to get a little bit more creative, but like, what does it serve your fans if you're Florida State and you play Youngstown State in your FCS season opener? Like, what does that do for fans? They're not that into it. I mean,
there's 80,000 of them there.
We see it every year in the SEC where they do the SEC SoCon Challenge in week 9 or 10 of the season. It's the week off before your rivalry game. That's what that's a lot of schools and a lot of conferences use the FCS game as the early season tune-up game, right? But the SEC uses it as the week off of rest before we play our rival school. A lot of them do.
Texter says, Diesel, you keep forgetting SC State as a Gamecock, my favorite FCS team to play against. Not sure if SC State. I mean, they're in. Okay. I forgot about South Carolina.
So
there's 6. Is that right?
Yeah. So there's 6. So there's 6 FCS teams.
Texter says Presbyterian is non-scholarship in football. They play in Pioneer League. Keep the texts coming. Keep the messages on the streams coming as well. Coming up next in the program, we're going to get back to this because this is very interesting, as well as what we talked about in the very first segment of the show. Your interaction's been fantastic today, so we ask you to keep that up. But coming up next, we've had several texts yesterday and today, Diesel, asking us to get to this Rashee Rice story. Rashee Rice, he on the field, man, he's fast. Off the field, he's even faster. We'll talk about Rashee Rice next. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. This is the Fan Upstate. Rashee Rice, man, this story finally, I think, is going to come to an end because he has finally worked with the officials. But this thing got wild. We had several Tolos, texters, streamers text in about this yesterday, and they wanted us to hear or to talk about this story. And it was very interesting. Rashee Rice, wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, as you know, he likes to go fast. And over the weekend, there was a Lambo and Corvette race, Diesel, in Dallas. So there's nothing wrong with racing your sports cars as long as you're not doing it on public highway.
On a track.
Right? Track's okay.
They're all over the place.
But you really don't need to be doing it going through downtown Dallas. That's not the best place for it, even though it would make a great movie scene. So what happens is Rashee Rice and his buddy, you know, when you're rich and you have money, you have Lambos and Corvettes, and they go fast. So you like to go fast. Nothing wrong with that, as we said, unless they're racing downtown Dallas. So what happens is these two are racing. Rashee Rice, a friend of his, there's several of them involved total, and they're racing in downtown Dallas, going over 150 miles an hour. And Diesel, as you know, when you go that fast, and if you've ever been to Dallas, Dallas traffic and roads are awful, just absolutely terrible. Well, guess what happens? They wreck. Well, okay, did anybody get hurt? Yeah, a couple people got hurt, but nobody died. So
are Dallas roads rougher than Greenville roads?
Not necessarily rougher, just they're tight. They're tight. There's so much traffic. They're tight, man, and they're, even though they are wider, they're still tight. It's just really, really congested. So like the scene happens, everybody gets out, nobody's dead. That's a good thing, right?
Miracle.
So all Rashee Rice has to do, Diesel, is wait for the police, give a statement, admit we were right, racing, going way too fast, get his really, really high ticket, whatever. I don't know what happens in that situation if you do stay.
Reckless endangerment.
Right.
I mean, you probably lose your license if they can prove how fast you were going.
Sure. Well, Rashee Rice and his friends in this situation, instead of doing that, decide, hey, let's get out of the car, get our guns and bags, and tuck them underneath all of our clothes and leave. Get out of Dodge. Get the you-know-what out of here, right? So there is literally video of these guys leaving the scene of the accident. Well, what makes this even worse, Diesel? Rashee Rice just goes MIA. Rashee goes missing. They can't find Rashee. They don't know where he played, or they don't know where he is. They don't know where his friends are. They don't have any idea about Rashee Rice. Well, here's what gets worse. There's a video from a pedestrian who shows the men, clearly Rashee Rice, leaving the vehicles. And we'll play the audio for you in a second. But Rashee Rice is in the video, and the pedestrian says, hey, are you guys just going to leave the scene? And, as Rashee Rice and his friends, I guess you could call them, as they are seen doing in the video, they get out of Dodge. So why I think this is so fascinating, and it's been all over Sports Center and all, you name it, what national media outlet, whatever show you watch, it's been the headline, right? What's so interesting about this, Diesel, is they were seen getting guns out of the car. Not a good look. They were seen getting bags. I don't know what was in the bags. Don't want to speculate. Out of the car. Not a great look. And then you just leave the scene. I hate that players in the offseason have such freedom. However, we've seen consistent NFL, NBA, MLB, whatever it is, we've seen consistency of players in the offseason having downtime and doing stupid things.
So if you were a betting man, would you wager that those bags were full of toys that they were taking to the orphanage?
I probably would not say toys.
Said, you know what, guys, we got to get these toys to them kids as fast as we possibly can.
Probably wouldn't bet on that.
Probably wasn't toys for the kids.
No.
Do you think that it was cans of food that they were racing to the local food bank as quick as they could?
Let me think. Cans of food. No, I'm not going to bet on that either.
Okay, so I think we have we can make a good guess, okay? Being very clear that this is a guess.
Speculation,
though we see young athletes in super fast sports cars who are racing at high speeds, who had guns on them. I think there's a fairly good chance that it's one of two things. More guns or drugs. Like, we're not stupid here, okay? Nobody's stupid. It's guns or drugs. That's the only thing that could possibly be in those bags. By the way, Cole, here's some breaking news. We're going to get into the story later on in the show. This is going to be relevant later on the show. Trust me. Starting August 1st, the state of Louisiana has banned prop bets on college players. This is just reported by ESPN. We are going to talk about that later on in the show. Trust us, it's going to come up in a big, big way. Those of you who really don't like sports gambling and where this could lead and could it affect college players and NIL and transfer portal things and all that, we're going to get into that later on in the show. But man, what a bad look for Rashee Rice. He did literally everything wrong that you could do in that situation.
Yeah.
I know one of the cars belonged to him. Do we know if both of the cars that belong to him?
I don't know if both did.
So he made the decision. What we know is he made the poor decision to climb into his fast car and drive it fast.
Correct.
With someone else.
That's right.
Could be that both of those cars belong to him and he gave someone else the keys to his car. And then he drove in excessive speed in downtown Dallas when it was really busy. He caused an accident, a hit and run. He grabbed his guns, legal or not. We don't know the answer to that question either. They grabbed up the contents of some duffel bags. Don't know what was in the duffel bags. We got a pretty good guess of to what it was. And he took off running. I don't think there's a way that this guy plays in the NFL at least this year or ever again.
That's a great question. And I will answer that. But I want you to hear this audio first because this is fantastic. This is them. The wreck has just happened for those that can't see it. And here comes the guys.
You guys all right? Yeah, that's it. Where are you guys heading?
No response. Gets better.
Smart enough that he was mouth shut.
Yeah. Are you guys all right? And he said, no, my chest. Here comes the second group where Rashee is seen in the video. This gets insane.
You guys all right?
Yeah. We gotta get up there, bro. Good.
You guys just gonna leave it?
Are you guys just gonna leave it? Says a random pedestrian after the wrecks happened. It's shut down the freeway. So to answer your question, Diesel, I think this is fascinating. I do think he's suspended for a significant time. I don't know, because you put a note in there in the run sheet of the show that I thought was really interesting with Ja Morant and that whole situation. I don't know how the NFL looks at this compared to how the NBA looked at the Ja Morant situation, but I'll tell you this. Rashee Rice better be thankful that no one was killed, because Henry Ruggs is still in Las Vegas, Nevada, somewhere in Nevada, right now, sitting in a 8x6 confinement. And obviously Henry Ruggs was on DUI and killed someone, but when you're going 100 plus, there's a good possibility that you could kill someone. So I don't know. I haven't had enough time, Diesel, to think about how much time he gets suspended. But, man, you would think that they would lean toward a season.
So this is the NFL's gun policy, at least in part. You must not possess a gun or other weapon at any time you are performing any service for your team or the NFL. Legal possession. You may not legally possess a gun or other weapon at any time you are performing any service for your team or the NFL. Now, this is all under investigation. This is all unfolding. We don't yet know, or we haven't heard yet, if these were legally possessed firearms.
Sure.
I haven't seen the video. Is it one gun? Is it multiple guns?
It's multiple.
Okay. So I mean, not to cast aspersions here, but it's not an unfair assumption or thought to say there's a chance these guns weren't legal. I mean, you don't scramble to tuck a whole bunch of legal guns under your shirt and run away from the police, do you?
That's the question I ask. Why would you leave?
Roger Goodell has one choice here, Cole. Yeah, why would you leave? Because number one, people can link the car to you via the VIN or the license plate.
Sure.
Number two, you're on video. Like everything is being videoed. There's not a square inch of that city that's not on video somewhere.
Right.
Some closed CCTV, traffic cams, eye in the sky from Dallas's weather team, whatever. ATM, that's how they got, Walter White in Breaking Bad was the camera on the ATM. Everything is being videoed. Dash cams in people's cars. Those are very popular these days. Everything is on video. And so this guy is going to get caught for this. There's no way in any shape or form you're not going to get caught for this. So you make stupid mistake after stupid mistake after stupid mistake, compounding on top of each other one by one by one by one. Roger Goodell has no choice. He has to bring the hammer down on Rashee Rice.
Rashee Rice did release a statement today, about an hour ago, on his Instagram story. The statement said, "Today, I met with Dallas PD investigators regarding Saturday's incident. I take full responsibility for my part in this matter and will continue to cooperate with the necessary authorities. I sincerely apologize to everyone impacted in Saturday's accident."
Quote Rashee Rice's agent.
For sure.
He didn't write that. He released a statement from his agent that his agent wrote. It's called damage control.
Yeah. I don't love any of this, but I believe that the worst part is the fact that you're not smart enough. Listen, going fast in a race car, a wreck, unfortunately, it happens. The part that really bothers me is you're not smart enough and as a grown adult to just take up, admit what you've done, stay there. Is to your point, how the heck do you think you're going to get away with this? This does no good. Obviously, there may have been something that they didn't want the police to see when they got there. Maybe that's why they left. I don't know that that's true, but I'm just speculating. We're allowed to speculate, but I will say this. The NFL has to do something. The NFL has to suspend Rashee, and I don't know what the proper amount of games is. He wasn't waving a gun around in a video like Ja Morant was, but I do think that this is pretty significant. Diesel, I mean, is a year too stiff?
I don't think a year is enough. I just got a message here from a friend listening to the show. What's up, Frank? Says that he rented the Lambo. And the reports that I heard this morning were that the Corvette was his. Again, that's assumption, that's speculation, but potentially his Corvette and a rented Lambo. Just DA decision after DA decision.
Yes.
And look, I already, and I haven't been shy about this in any way, shape, or form. I already have next to no faith in Roger Goodell in the NFL when it comes to disciplining its players. They are wishy-washy. It's like a pendulum. It just swings back and forth. They go too hard on this situation. They don't go hard enough on that situation.
I agree.
And then they go too hard on this one, and they don't go hard enough on that one. I think this is one of the ones that you have to go hard on. You have to go hard on this. And I don't think this dude should ever play in the NFL ever again.
Really?
Ever again.
Wow.
You cannot engage in reckless behavior like that, where you have the potential to kill somebody. You injured somebody. You sent somebody to the hospital. You caused X number of thousands of dollars in damage. You blocked up city streets. You had guns on you. You probably had drugs on you. Like, for real, does he want us to believe that it was his laundry in those bags?
Yeah, they were going to the laundromat.
Yeah, they were going to the laundry. Yeah, okay. So they had spilled wine on their shirt. And they said, ooh, if we don't get to the laundromat quick, this wine is going to set.
That's
this
right.
Merlot stain is never going to come out.
Right.
Like, let's be real. Let's not be morons with this. Drugs and guns, fast cars, idiots with too much money. No way, shape, or form should this guy ever play in the league again.
I love the text from Billy D. I say the text, the message on the stream, which you can watch on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Billy D says, "Do you think he has enough money to get insurance involved?" No, Billy. He probably doesn't.
I think Jake from State Farm could get him out of this.
You might be right. But I'll close with this. I agree with what you said. I don't have faith in Roger Goodell, and that's why I do think that he'll be playing again.
When we come back, not one, not two, or not one, but two times a fight has broken out in the stands between the Padres and the Giants fans. Talk about those situations and ask you, what sports insult gets you there? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When your rival fans get in your face, when they're shouting stuff at you from another tailgate, when they're talking junk on the message boards, what sports insult gets you there? And what sports insult do they think gets you there that doesn't really have any effect at all? We'll talk about that next here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson live here from the Ingles Markets studios. We are the Fan Upstate. We've seen it in back-to-back nights. Padres and Giants fans going after each other, throwing fists. Isn't it great? Aren't sports great? Like, they get us together. They bring
Make
us to
us fight.
locations so that we can hit each other in the face. So
I do love a good sports fight.
video is out there. We were talking about with Rasheed Rice. Everything is on video. Anytime anything happens, what's the first thing people do? They get out their phones and they hold it up. It's the first thing they do.
Sure.
So the fight in the first game happened between a female Giants fan and two male Padres fans. Now, we, from our perspective from the camera, we're like 10 rows away, so we can't really hear what's going on, but they're arguing face to face, and then she just hauls off and smacks him. He shoves her. She goes over a chair. Everybody's like, boo, boo, you pushed a girl. Like, what the hell? She's the one who started it. She was screaming in their faces, and then she put hands on the guy first. You shouldn't do it, but there's justification there, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a justification. You don't agree with it, but there is a justification. Follow that up with the next night. Same two fan bases. They get in a fight in the concourse that involves like 5 or 6 people. You see 2 people throwing fists at each other, and you pan over and there's 2 more people just fighting. But that's what happens when you get rival fan bases
and
alcohol, and probably some choice words were thrown back and forth at each other.
Sure.
So I would love to know from Clemson and South Carolina fans, as I'm sure we have some Auburn and Alabama fans in the audience and some Florida and Florida State fans listening, what insults get you there? Like, the ones like they throw the insult at you, they think they got you, but you're like, I don't really care about that one. But like, there's always the one that comes along that kind of sticks in your craw a little bit, kind of gets your goat a little bit.
I can't wait to answer.
So first of all, I need to hear any and all of your best insults. If you're a Clemson fan, throw me your best insults at South Carolina. If you're a South Carolina fan, throw your insults at Clemson fans on the text line, 71307. Just start your text with keyword fan. You can also call in at 844-FAN-PHONE. That's the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. But we all have those ones that roll off our backs like water on a duck.
Right.
And then there's the ones that kind of get us.
So you ready for mine?
Yeah. So you are a fan of...
So I'm actually going to spin this, and this one's not going to be Clemson and Carolina related.
You're a fan of?
No. This one don't have anything to do with Clemson and Carolina.
Okay.
This one is NBA related. So here's what gets me. I'll tell you the one that gets me is when I'm having a conversation with someone about LeBron James and Michael Jordan, and they go to the laziest, dumbest cop out of all time. Well, Michael has 2 more rings than LeBron. That is the one that gets me every time. That's the one that gets my blood boiling, that turns my face red, that pisses me off, because we don't have a 3-hour show remaining, Diesel, but I could go on for hours about why that's the stupidest argument ever. That's the one that gets you. That's the one that gets me.
You're bordering on throwing fists on that
I can't stand it.
Mad Craft says America's team, Dallas isn't even Texas's team. Ouch, Matt. And Cole's answering a phone. You guys can't see this unless you're watching on the stream.
What's your name?
Cole, that's rough, man. He can't even answer the insult because he's busy.
Now, I heard it. It was good.
Yeah.
Madcraft, you're wrong.
We've been working on something on the station and day part for a couple of years now. We did a off-season bracket, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we thought we would strip Dallas of the America's team moniker and do a poll to see who is America's real team.
Yeah, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's a good one, though. That is a good one that gets me.
You're not America's team. You're not even Texas.
Madcraft, congratulations. That is another one to add to the resume. That's one that gets me. That does drive me a little bit.
So, like, I'm an App State fan. Our biggest rival is Georgia Southern.
Right.
And you know, you hear the silly like hillbilly, toothless, goat humpers, things like that. Like every single fan thinks, I got the best insult.
Mhm.
Let's throw these out there. And
Sure.
they don't bug you. They don't bug you at all. The one that does is when they bring up the fact that they kept us out of the Access Bowl
Ooh.
in 2022 by beating us on Halloween. That one really gets me. Let's hear from Sly Guy, who's calling in on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. Sly Guy, first of all, you got to tell us who you're a fan of. Second of all, you got to tell us what's the insult that really gets your goat.
All right, first of all, hey, congratulations, Diesel and Cole. You guys deserve it.
Thanks.
Die-hard Philadelphia Eagles and Sixers fan.
Ugh.
Now, as far as the insults go, that was one right there.
Well, Cole's been calling it Philadelphia all week, so if you need to throw objects at somebody, throw objects at Cole. He's been trashing you all week.
All right.
Well, I heard you guys talking about Santa. Santa was drunk, man. He deserved what he got, and he didn't live up to the contract. Good thing that the vet had one of the first police precincts in the league, because his ass should have gone to jail. I don't know if he did or not. But back to the point at hand. I don't have a specific insult, but I think you keep family out of it.
Ooh.
Don't make it personal. You know, please don't make it personal. And okay, you can talk any kind of trash about my team that you want to, and I'm going to try to stand there in the debate with you. But don't make it personal. Don't make it personal. I'm going to try to walk away, try my best to walk away, but don't approach me if my back is turned.
Sly Guy, what if somebody was trying to get at you and he said that your family tree is as wide as a telephone pole? Like, can I bring family into it like that in general senses, or does it not get specific?
It just depends on how you interpret that. I have a big family, so I don't consider that an insult. You have to be more specific, man. You have to really, really, really disrespect me.
Sly Guy, what's your favorite insult to throw at your rival team?
My favorite insult, it's subjective. It just depends. It's usually spontaneous, so I don't have like a list and one takes priority over the other. I like responding to the moment. I think that digs deeper than having, just picking out something that doesn't apply.
Sly Guy is just a creative guy in the moment.
He is.
I totally get it. Sly Guy, we appreciate the phone call there. We want to move on, and let's get to Christy, who is a admitted Gamecock fan. Christy, what insult that Clemson fans throw at you? Because, they say things like they call you a coot. Like, does that really bug you when Clemson fans call you a coot?
Not at all.
Okay.
That doesn't bother me at all. They could say that all day long.
But they do, right? They think it gets you.
They do. But that doesn't really bother me. You're right. What bothers me is almost the same with your feeling, Diesel, about App State. Clemson fans say that Carolina fans are redneck, uneducated people driving trucks, and they're all like that. I hear that quite a bit, and it's infuriating.
Big words from a Cal college, right?
Yeah, they're not exactly. I think we have an equal number of rednecks on both sides of our rivalry.
That's why, Christy, that's why you've been a valued listener of this station for a long time, because
for 20 years.
You can keep it even on either side. And I've been saying for a long time that the reason why Clemson and South Carolina fans hate each other so much is because y'all are exactly alike. Do you agree?
Oh, my.
Well, yeah. The one thing it's not an insult that Clemson fans do, especially in their really good years, is false modesty. Oh, I don't know. I don't know about the NC State game. I don't know. I'm real worried about Syracuse.
It's called building in excuses in advance, Christy. That's what it is.
Up. I mean, well, it's like you're going to win. I mean, we know who we are. You should know who you are. We're going to play Alabama. We're going to lose. It's a fact.
Great stuff, Christy.
Insulting our program is not an insult. We know who we are.
I love it.
Now
Love it.
who's
And Cole,
now who's being self-deprecating, Christy?
right? But Cole, well, we have reason recently, but I do have one thing to say to Cole. I don't know if it's appropriate, but I would love for Cole to come back and call our play-by-play at Burns High School.
Oh, they missed you up there. They love you, Cole.
Thank you, Christy.
Oh gosh, I've been there 25 years, and I really miss your play-by-play. So make it happen.
I appreciate that. All right, real quick, we have time for JD Diesel.
Yes, we do. Let's get to
JD, what's up, man?
Hey, yeah, I'll get in real quick here. I'm a Gamecock, admittedly.
No.
Everybody knows it. Yeah, I mean, but you want to know what drives me nuts? There's this JV radio station in the upstate. There's a couple of guys on there. I think it was Diesel and Mark, and they used to call us Angry Bird. Man, you want to talk about something grinding my gears? Call me an Angry Bird one more time. Y'all have a good one.
See you, JD.
JD, thank you. It's funny. It's funny is that a Gamecock does look like, what was the red one on the Angry Birds video game?
I know what you're talking about.
Exactly like it. So it fits.
It does. All right, coming up next, it's time. It's the most anticipated segment. What are we going to fight about next? He's Diesel. I am Cole Bryson. This is the Fan Upstate. A lot of great conversation still coming into the text line. Continue to get your thoughts in. 71307. Start your text with FAN. It is now time, however, for you to change your tune, your text, your message, your phone call. You've got to change your tune because it's time for the fight. It's time for the 5 o'clock fight. This is where Diesel and I, every single day at 5 o'clock on this very program, we put, as Diesel says, our dukes up and we go at it. 3 rounds. You, the Tolo, decide who wins. Text into the show, call in on the stream, Twitter, however you want to get your thoughts in. Let us know who you think wins each round. Some really good content in these rounds today, Diesel. And I hate to tell you, you're going 0 for 3. 0 for 3 today.
We'll see about that.
All right. It's time. Here it is every day at 5 o'clock. So many things to get to, so many topics to debate, Diesel, as we do every single day at 5 o'clock. But today, in this very segment, there are some really, really good ones. And each round, as I just said, we want you to be a part of the program. We want you to submit your feedback after every round. And with that being said, it is time for Round 1, Fight. Diesel, I love the Atlanta Braves. I've always loved the Atlanta Braves, but sometimes I catch myself in March, April, and May thinking, oh, I'm glad, we won, or I'm devastated that we lost. So I was thinking this morning, and my question to you is, and to our audience, is it pointless to care about what your MLB team does March through May?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
No, it's not pointless to care about what they do March through May. It matters.
I don't think so.
You got to get off to a good start. Look, if you start the season 0-10, I think it's pretty damn clear that you're not going to have a very successful season. And you can make some moves. You can catch your stride, whatever it might be. But, it makes you feel good, number one, to be back, paying attention to your team again. You can't get to 90 wins, that magic number that it takes to get into the playoffs, without starting well. If you start 0-10, 0-20, 2-18, something like that, you are unlikely to get there. So it does matter.
I would agree that drastic of a bad start would not be good. However, I will say, for this sake of argument, it doesn't, because we have seen year after year teams like the Atlanta Braves, teams like the Houston Astros, teams like the Dodgers roll through the regular season. And then when the postseason arrives, we have seen teams like the Philadelphia Phillies, the Nationals a few years ago, all of a sudden get hot. Now, I will agree with what you just said. It's probably better not to start 2-18. Yeah, that's probably not the best. However, I think I find myself as a Braves fan getting too caught up in the wins and losses like I did last night when the Braves dropped 1 to Chicago.
Roger Carper says Diesel gets round 1. Cole, just stay quiet.
Quiet, I think you meant.
Yeah, he means quiet.
All right.
I always point it out.
Get your thoughts
I am
in.
a grammar Nazi.
Let us know. 71307. Start your text with FAN. Also on the stream and on Twitter, he's at Diesel on Radio. I am at the Cole Bryson. And with that, round 1 is over. It's time for round 2. Diesel says that spring games need to be fixed, that there are some serious issues with spring games. Diesel, for those that just tuned in, let us know why you think that.
Spring games are pointless because it's like a wrestling match. It's already predetermined what you're going to do. All you're really doing is getting the guys out there to see if they can do it in a slightly closer but still not an actual game scenario. Look, spring games don't matter. What has changed because of what happened in a spring game? How many times have we seen players look great in a spring game but look like garbage in actual games? That's why I think we need to overhaul what spring games are. Instead of it making it a glorified scrimmage between your own offense and your own defense, it's time to make this the annual FCS game, where you're still paying your in-state FCS some money to come up. You're still having a good time. You can still get everybody together. You can still sell your merch and your concessions and whatever else it is. But we need real, actual game reps in the spring game, and that's how you get it.
I hear you. And I understand that spring games aren't the most attractive thing in the world. However, I will say that, as I said earlier on in the program, I do think that they are helpful for certain players who maybe are trying to push the starters. I do think they're helpful for the coaching staff in many, many ways. But I do believe that the coaching staff, one of the biggest pros of the spring game is for them to be able to set the defense that they want against the offense that they want. Regardless of what offense they have on the field, they can put their defense that they want on the field so that they can see how their offense fares against that certain package. I hear you, and I do not hate the idea of involving an FCS team. I don't hate the idea, but I do think there is some value to a spring game. Let us know what you think. 71307.
Look, if a big-time rivalry game is a 10, a spring game is about a 4. My idea for making it your annual FCS game, that's going to bring it up to about a 6.
Madcraft says fan support early sets the tone, man. You got to care. Diesel wins 1. JD says, no, I'm with Cole. What the Braves do all season doesn't matter. They never win the playoffs like the Cowboys. Shots fired. Thanks, JD. I appreciate that.
JD pointing the gun square at Cole today.
I love it. Texter says Cole wins round 1 only because the Braves are just like the Cowboys. What is going on today? I mean, are we just taking shots? Diesel, is this today's shot day?
No, it's just me over here under the table texting in. Texter says round 2 goes to Diesel. Spring games are so vanilla and pointless.
Well, and I'm overly concerned that Harbor isn't practicing. Okay. All right. One more round. Diesel, you ready for round 3?
Let's do it.
Give it your best right here.
Final round. Fight.
Diesel, you're an App State guy.
I am.
Would you give up a national championship to ensure your rival never wins one? Wow.
Oh, hell yeah, I would. Okay, so in this real life scenario right now, App State's got 3 FCS national championships. I have to concede our rival Georgia Southern has more. They have more, but I would give up one of those FCS natties and say, okay, we didn't go back to back to back. We just went back to back to say Georgia Southern, those toothless, gnat-infested water bathing so's and so's from South Georgia will never, ever, ever win an FBS national championship. I think that's valid. I think that's real. Hell yeah, I would.
That is so interesting and fascinating. I see both sides, and this would be a lot harder of an argument if your team only had one. Like if you were trading the one.
If you ask the NCAA, Clemson only has one.
Ooh.
They don't recognize the other 2. It's an FBS. They're FBS championships or college football playoff championships, not NCAA championships. So Clemson fans, let's put it in this scenario. Would you be willing to give up the 81 title to ensure that South Carolina in football never wins a national championship? South Carolina, would you be willing to give up one of your baseball national championships to ensure that Clemson never, ever wins a baseball national championship?
I think from the South Carolina Clemson perspective, that's interesting because I do think a lot of Clemson fans would give up the 81 championship.
Oh, you hate each other just so much.
Absolutely.
And what did Clemson – it's like 1A, 1B. Clemson fans want to win, and they want to see South Carolina lose, and vice versa.
Sure.
It's like you could still have the great season. You still have the great season, but maybe you lost in the national championship game. Madcraft says, dude, I'll give up one if it means Florida State never wins again because we about to win another one soon. And now
we're talking outside of our neck, right?
You're on the sauce, Madcraft.
Come on, Madcraft. No way. I think that's a very interesting question. I would say no Diesel says yes. Let us know what you think on the stream. Phone lines are open as well. 844-326-3663.
Texter says, keep your natties. I don't see Southern getting anywhere close to the FBS playoffs.
Well, that's true.
Fair
point.
It's true. It's true. But 50 years from now, who knows? Who knows what could happen? And Southern could back into a playoff and they could go on a magical run. It's possible. It's sickening to think about, but it is possible.
And with that,
what do you want Diesel and Co. Bryson to fight about next?
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it.
Submit your topics to diesel@thefanupstate.com. Subject line, fight on the Fan Upstate.
we now turn it over to you. You decide, keep the conversation, keep the message, keep the thoughts coming as you're doing right now. Roger says, I'm not giving one up because U of SC rather, will never win one anyway. Roger taking some shots at the Carolina Gamecocks. I'm here for some shots being fired today, right?
Texter says, shots up, Diesel.
That's rough.
I enjoy how much of a rivalry that's become in such a short period of time. Because Grayson McCall at Coastal Carolina used to piss me off so much. He's a hell of a quarterback, and I think he's going to do great things. Where did Grayson McCall go?
NC State.
NC State. I think Grayson McCall is a phenomenal quarterback.
Sure.
But he's that guy that drives you insane when he's on the other team. He's that guy that when you've done everything you needed to do on defense and it's 3rd and 9, he's getting 10 yards. Like he is that dude, and it drove me insane. Just these upstart blue chickens from Conway, not even in Myrtle Beach.
The Conway chickens.
The Conway chickens. The Shanta, well, I can't say that.
No, you can't say that.
Back half.
FCC.
The fact that they've gotten pretty good pretty quickly, it drives me nuts.
A lot of good conversation coming in. I believe the text of the day, though, Diesel, goes to someone. He didn't put his name, he or she, from the 324. I'd give up a left cojona, a.k.a. nut, if Clemson never won. Now, the only problem with that text is
That's not on the table, first of all.
Well, and one was spelled O-N-E and not W-O-N. Come on. You had it for a minute, but you ruined it.
So that's a valid question. South Carolina, you've got national championships across the board. You got quite a few national championships. Would you give up one of your baseball national championships? You've got 2 in baseball, 2 in women's basketball, 1 in outdoor track and field, and 6 in equestrian. Would you be willing to hand back one of those baseball national championships to ensure that Clemson baseball never wins one?
Well, from the 554, I wouldn't give up a Carolina baseball natty to ensure that Clemson never wins one because Clemson chokes so they aren't a threat. Lefty Tiger says, after last 2 seasons, I'm not paying attention to Braves baseball till mid-August. Going back to the round 1 question, a lot of good stuff. And another one that just came in, go Dens, FU all the time.
So South Carolina Shane Beamer deserves a lot of credit for the job he's done on the recruiting trail. He can get them in-house.
Yeah.
Now, he's not winning games with them once he gets them in-house, but he can get them in-house. And they have done really, really well to get there on the just on paper in recruiting.
Sure.
They theoretically have what it takes to make a 12-team college football playoff.
Right.
Theoretically, on paper, personnel-wise. So that's the question. I mean, they could get into a 14-team playoff. You go back to the 2022 season, South Carolina was kind of on that edge. They had 2 big wins over Clemson and Tennessee. Like, think about that team getting into a college football playoff with 14 teams and getting hot at the right time, going on a run.
It's true.
So Clemson fans, would you be willing to give up one of your natties to ensure that never happens?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because you've got 3 that you're willing, you're like, well,
yeah,
I got 3.
Absolutely. Because if, like I said a minute ago, if you only had a 1, I don't think any Clemson fan would ever say, yeah, we'll give up our only 1, right? As JD points out, Cole, Gamecocks also have a bass fishing championship. That is really, really impressive. Really impressive. As you can sense the sarcasm.
Widest mouths in the SEC.
I like it.
I like big bass, and I cannot lie.
That's true. That's true. I wish they had fishing when I was in school. They did not.
Yeah, Southern Miss got one hell of a fishing program.
Do they?
Yeah, I don't fathom how you get to go to college for that.
When I was in high school, I got in trouble for skipping class to fish. Now they allow you to skip class to pre-fish tournaments. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
What a time to be alive.
What a time.
We messed up.
We really did. We missed our calling. We really did. But great stuff in the 5 o'clock fight from our audience. That one is one of the best, most interactive segments we've had.
And we will fight about anything you want us to fight about. It doesn't have to be sports. It can be politics. We try not to fight politics as long as it's in good fun. Like, we'll fight politics if it's in good fun. We'll fight anything. Anything you got, send us a message. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Email me, diesel@thefanupstate.com. Just put the word fight in the subject line.
All right. Coming up next, Diesel has a very interesting story about how Charlie Baker wants to end prop betting in college sports, along with some breaking news that pertains to prop betting in Louisiana. Diesel will tell you all about it and why you should be concerned about it if you like to gamble. Right here, next on Wire to Wire.
Sports betting is illegal in the state of South Carolina. A lot of sports betting. Some kinds of sports betting are like they're not legal. They're just not illegal. Yeah.
Daily fantasy is legal.
Yeah, you can still do it basically because the South Carolina State Legislature has not ruled on it. If they had ruled on it, very likely they would rule against it. But I don't know if you've heard this. Those of you who like to wager, those of you who enjoy doing it illegally, you know?
Yeah.
Those of you who like to do it, you like to drive over the border to North Carolina.
That's what I do. I
to
drive
place
over
your
the
wagers.
border.
Yeah. Sorry, there might be a big change coming to how you're able to wager on college sports. NCAA President Charlie Baker wants to end prop betting on college players in college sports. A week ago, Charlie Baker urged state lawmakers in legal betting states to ban prop bets, specifically regarding college players. Now, we have all seen all the recent scandals in professional sports, the Shohei Ohtani situation, the other players who have bet on themselves. It's happening more and more and more, and you can't go anywhere. You can't turn on anything. You can't listen to your favorite podcast without hearing an ad for FanDuel or DraftKings or whatever. It's everywhere. The amount of sports betting has increased a ton. This is the 6th straight year that wagers have increased on college sports. And Charlie Baker and the NCAA fears that the risk of scandals in college athletics will increase to go along with the increased number of states that legalize betting and the amount of betting that we have. So this is really interesting because to me, I think prop bets are way more fun to wager on. You know, you're wagering if the wide receiver one's going to have over or under 5.5 catches in the game. That's interesting to me. That's fun to me. Wagering the spread. I like betting the spread. I don't really like betting the money line too much. It's not as entertaining to me, but I like props. It's an interesting way to pay attention to different elements of the game that you may otherwise not pay a tremendous amount of attention to. But Cole, you as somebody who is somebody who follows the law but is interested in betting.
Wink, wink.
does this dampen your ability to enjoy the sport?
No, not really, because like I say this about a lot of things. I say it about marijuana. I say it about guns. I say it about a lot of things in the world. If they ban it, guess what? People are still going to have a way to do it, right?
Yeah,
so
it's just going to push the above ground thing underground.
Sure. Now, I will say to your point, the daily wagers, the prop bets, which are legal in South Carolina, you can do on FanDuel or whatever. A lot of my friends do it. I don't do the daily prop bets as much, but a lot of people like those, Diesel. The attraction to that is you can spend a minimal amount of money, let's say $10, and place a wager tonight on, let's do the NBA, for example. If you want to place 5 prop bets and only put $10, well, because of the odds of those 5 prop bets hitting are so low, the payout is going to be nice, right? $200, $250. So, you know, I'm just spitballing numbers here, throwing something at a wall.
Yeah, not that you would know.
Not that I would know. Wink, wink, wink. But the attraction to that is you're only risking $10 to win maybe $250. Now, like I said, all 5 of those have to hit, right?
It's a parlay, yeah.
It's a parlay. You're putting together a parlay based on props. So you're needing Luka to have over 12.5 rebounds or 12.5 assists, and you're also needing Giannis on another team in another city to also have over 32 points, whatever it may be. So it's a lot tougher to hit, but when you do, it's a nice payout. So I will say that's the attractive part of it. I do think that, like in my circle, the people that I talk to, that is probably the more popular point of gambling rather than, as you talked about, just putting money on a team on the line, on against the spread, on the money line. Totals. Yep, over-unders. You name it. Now, I guess still prefer that method. I still like going with a total or betting on a team versus the spread or buying a few points, whatever it may be. But what's popular are the daily fantasies. I have a lot of people that I follow, that I'm friends with, who are involved with the daily fantasies here in South Carolina, and that is definitely the trend, and it does help because you can do it in South Carolina.
What Charlie Baker is trying to avoid, he's trying to avoid essentially insider gambling, the insider trading. He's trying to avoid Pete Rose at the college level, right? Pete Rose would go out there and place a bet on the over of him getting 4 hits in a game. It was just nuts what the kind of things that Pete Rose was gambling on. But there's also the ability, if a player knows that a prop on his performance is going a different direction or the other, he could wager and he could potentially shave the number of like what if a wide receiver drops a ball so that make sure he hits the under? What if he stops short of a line to gain because he knows if he goes over on the yardage, then he's gonna lose out on some money. So that's what's really entertaining about this, is that so many people love to watch sports, not because they actually like the sport, but they're just gamblers. That's just what they like to do. So it seems as if this is picking up maybe a little bit of momentum, a little bit of steam. I broke the news earlier in the show that starting August 1st, the state of Louisiana has banned prop bets on college players. This is a report that was released earlier today per ESPN. So Charlie Baker has gotten his way, at least in Louisiana at this point. Sorry, those of you listening down there in Metairie, those of you listening in French Lick, Indiana, sorry, you're not going to be able to bet on LSU's running back to go over or under a carries total in the game or a yardage total in the game. So I understand why Charlie Baker wants to do this.
Well,
because it also would allow any player to share insider information, what they're seeing on game film, something like that. They could share that with somebody to bet on their behalf if you didn't want to legalize it for the players to bet, because right now players could bet on themselves.
Sure. And I think I see both sides. I really do. Like, my immediate reaction is, why does the Louisiana Gaming Control Board, the LGCB, why do they have to have it banned August 1st? So what I see from Ronnie Johns, who is the chairman of the LGCB, is that he says, Diesel, it is the intention of the Louisiana Gaming Control Board to protect the integrity of sports betting as well as the safety and integrity of college athletes. John said, we feel that this order accomplishes that goal. He goes on to say sports betting issues are on the rise across the country, with prop bets continuing to threaten the integrity and competition and leading to student athletes and professional athletes getting harassed. Baker said the NCAA has been working with states to deal with these threats, and now Louisiana joins Maryland, Ohio, and Vermont as recent states. So I think
so many people are betting on Vermont players in their games.
All the schools up there, right?
So he brings up an interesting point there, players being harassed.
That's what I wanted to bring up.
We see it all the time when a player will get death threats because they dropped a ball in a big game or something like it happens. Like, we hear about this all the time. There is no limit to the depravity of people on the internet who will go after a 19 or 20-year-old kid because he dropped the ball on a key play, 4th and 4, down at the goal line. He fumbled. Like, it happens. It happens all the time. So maybe that's an anecdotal reason to look at it from this guy. But let's just say that you believe this needs to be banned, that you believe that this problem is so systemic that it has to be banned. I mean, Charlie Baker is right here. This has to be a state-by-state ban. He has to hopefully get all 50 states involved here, because he knows that the NCAA, of which he is the president, doesn't have the power or the resources to actually enforce this. So it's a smart strategy from Charlie Baker to implore states to do this. I don't know how successful it's going to be. You said it's now 4 states.
4 states
that have these rules in place. So we'll see if this continues to grow.
Not to get political, but I would imagine that, Diesel, this would take the same trend as what we see now from a state-by-state plan of whether gambling is legal or not, right? What I mean is, I think a lot of this will depend on each state's government. Sure. Because I do think that there are states.
You're never going to get all 50 states
no,
to agree on this.
You
all
won't.
50 states gaming commissions.
I don't think you will. No. I do think you might get a good many, though. Yeah. I do think you might could get a good many, and I get the concern. From one who loves the idea of sports gambling, I get the concern. And, a lot of people who, I don't know the percentage, but I would imagine that the percentage of people who gamble, it's probably a pretty high percentage of people who are doing it on a daily basis are college students. So if that's the case, those college students are on the same campus as those who they're gambling on.
I'm going to give you two examples. If you don't believe that the college kids are doing it, if you don't believe that anybody could make a could have a VPN and say that they're 30 years old from whatever state, they can absolutely do it. But if you don't believe that it's going to continue to grow and be a bigger issue, I mean, obviously 6 years in a row, the amount of wagers placed on games have increased. My 9-year-old nephew over the weekend at Easter came up to me and asked, like, what's FanDuel?
What is FanDuel?
Yeah, what's FanDuel? He goes, I said, what do you mean? I said, it's a gambling site. And he goes, oh, well, because I see commercials for it every single video I watch on YouTube. Like FanDuel, DraftKings, all of these different games, they're everywhere. You cannot watch anything. They're spending a tremendous amount of money to advertise sports betting. They really, really are. So the question becomes, well, how do you actually stop this? You can make it illegal to bet on college sports, college athletes props. But how do you actually stop this from happening? How do you actually get college athletes to not engage in this in any way, shape, or form, whether it's betting on themselves, whether it's sharing inside information? I think you have to get, just like we talked about with Roger Goodell earlier, I think you have to come down hard. You have to come down hard on these athletes to protect the integrity of the game. And I have some ideas on how to do that.
I think the hard part, though, is before we hit a break, I think the hard part, Diesel, is how do you stop those illegal efforts that are going on with the illegal bookies?
You can't stop illegal efforts. I mean, you can bust a book.
Yeah.
I mean, how did Shohei Ohtani's thing get stopped? How did that? He was an illegal book.
Right.
And it came to light in a different way.
Sure.
Obviously, him saying that money was stolen, but the illegal book did come to light. It's not like the bookie said, hey, here's a list of all my clients who are spending all this money. And there's nobody saying, hey, here, I love betting illegally. Here's my bookie. Things like this just, they come to light. It happens.
They do. All right. Something really interesting that we have planned for the next segment. I'll go ahead and give you one of the two interesting things. Number one is the LSU-Iowa game. It was the most televised or the most viewed women's college basketball game ever, right? We all expected that might be the case. It was the most viewed women's college basketball game ever. However, the second point that I think is the most interesting, I'll tell you what that is. This blew my mind in reference to Monday night's game between LSU and Iowa. Coming up next, he's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. This is the Fan Upstate. As I said before we hit the break, I assumed that Monday night's game between LSU and Iowa would be dramatic. I assumed that we would see very, very high ratings for that game. I did not assume that it would be the most watched women's basketball game ever, and I sure as heck did not assume this. Monday night's game between LSU and Iowa, Diesel, our audience, 12.3 million viewers. This game broke ESPN's record of most watched college basketball game ever on ESPN platforms. That blew my mind. That men's, women's, didn't matter.
Wow.
This game broke the record. 12.3 million viewers. Is that not unreal? That's a lot of freaking people. And it broke. You mean to tell me ESPN had never had a game on their platform that had that many
Regardless
viewers?
of men's or women.
Sure.
Wow.
I guess ESPN doesn't carry all the championships or something.
Well, they don't get the championships anymore. It's all on CBS, TBS.
So I guess that's a big reason.
TNT. They're not getting any modern ratings, that's for sure.
Wow, man, that is still ever.
Well, and look, we've seen so much coverage over the past couple of weeks, especially from last year. Last year is when it really, all the Caitlin Clark mania.
That's when she hit the scene.
The Caitlin Clark mania really got fueled last year because people said, ooh, this girl's really good.
Yeah.
And then she stayed. And then she had another phenomenal season. And then there was that stretch where every night she was breaking not one, not two, but 3 NCAA records. You know, she'd break the record for the most number of threes in a game. And then she would break the record for the most number of points in a game. And then she was a single season scoring record. And then overall scoring record. Like, it was just constant. We were hearing how good Caitlin Clark was. So, of course, there's a media circus and a media buzz behind that. And it's fantastic to see. And all of the news channels nationwide are talking about, like Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, all your local news channels. They're all talking about it. And very rarely would you see a national news source like CNN or whatever, or Fox or whatever. Very rarely would you see them just talking about, oh, it's the 2024 Elite Eight. Let's talk about it. They don't talk about that, but there's a reason. This is a story. So that's transcended the game of basketball
in an unbelievable way.
Transcended women's basketball, and it's become a cultural phenomenon.
So last year's title game was broadcasted on ABC. It drew a total of 9.9 million viewers. Big number. That is a big number. So you're talking about 9.9 in last year's title game compared to this year's 12.3 million in a non-title game. Monday's game exceeded that number despite being on cable, which is available in fewer homes. So let me say that again. Monday's game exceeded that number despite being on cable. Fewer people have cable. And guess what? I hadn't had cable in, I can't tell you how long.
Blows me away that cable's not trying to get us back, right?
Right. Changes, listen to this, changes in how Nielsen counts out-of-home viewing have boosted numbers for all sports telecasts in recent years. So the NCAA also recently signed a new TV contract with ESPN that values the women's tournament at $65 million annually, a more than tenfold increase on the previous rate. So I think the interesting question is, and we brought this up earlier in the week, and Madcraft so wonderfully transitioned this conversation on the stream with his comment. I said earlier this week, I love all this. This is fantastic. Women's game has never seen these heights, right? But I also said, I don't ever see it getting higher than this. I think this is the climax. I think it stops here. Will there be great players? Sure. But Madcraft on the stream says, we're witnessing history because I don't believe we'll ever see that again anytime soon. And I agree, Diesel. I don't think you will ever see a dynasty like South Carolina, a dynasty that was a few years ago in UConn, a dynasty in LSU, a superstar in Caitlin Clark, all in the same era. That's unbelievable. Do you think we'll ever see it again?
I think, and I don't say this gleefully.
Yeah.
I believe that the bubble in women's college basketball is going to burst. Maybe not next year, but the year after that.
Okay.
So the 2026 season.
Okay.
And it's for all the reasons that you just said. We have a convergence of South Carolina women eliteness, UConn's eliteness, of LSU's eliteness, of the storyline between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. We have Caitlin Clark. I mean, there's such a convergence of storylines all at once that, let's be frank, in any sport is unsustainable. Like, you're not going to have that level of cultural phenomenon year in and year out. I think what this will do is, if it took women's basketball from where it was here, down here, and it's raised it all the way up to here, the truth is it's going to settle back towards the middle somewhere. And that's still a big increase for the game.
Sure.
And like next year, when there's not a Caitlin Clark, or the year after that, or the year after that, do you think Fox News is going to be talking about it?
That's what worries
every
me, man.
local sports station across the country on television is going to be featuring women's college basketball in their nightly sports report? I don't think so. I don't think so. And that's my fear for the game. And it's because right now, a large portion of the coverage is not even about the games, right? Like, you turn on, you'll turn on Fox News and they'll say, isn't it great that the ratings are so good? The ratings are great. Everybody's talking about it. Well, but they're not actually talking about the games. They're not talking about the nuts and bolts, the reason why people actually show up to watch the games. Like, they're not analyzing and breaking down and saying this is actually an elite form of basketball because, well, we've eliminated the fast break and the slam dunk, which is kind of ruined the men's game. This is a more fundamental version of basketball for this reason or that reason or whatever. I don't think women's college basketball has necessarily arrived or will arrive until the national coverage is about the games, not the soap opera surrounding the game, right? And that's what the coverage is right now. The coverage is the soap opera around the games.
Well, I think that I hear what you're saying. I do, however, think that the game, the level of the play is at an all-time high.
Of course it is.
And that's another thing. Like, when you talk about Caitlin Clark, I don't know. That's what kind of concerns me. Like, I don't know that we'll ever have someone to build a sport around so quickly.
She's a star.
She's
Tiger Woods. Caitlin Clark is Tiger Woods.
And we have seen it in the NBA. We've seen it in the MLB. We've seen it in college football. Sporting programs, leagues, NCAA associations, when they can have someone like a Tim Tebow, like a LeBron, who can take the label as face of the league, man, the marketability, it just skyrockets. And again, South Carolina's program, their consistency, they've been great. They've had studs and stars through their program the past, 5 or 6 years. And UConn was great, and LSU's been fantastic. Kim Mulkey's a great coach. I just don't know that you're ever going to see a star like you do in Caitlin Clark.
Well, and we have the cultural phenomenon mixed into this. Here's audio of Paul Pierce explaining why he thinks Caitlin Clark and the game that's benefited around her has grown the way that it has. And I'm not necessarily sure I like where he goes with this.
Yeah, it's not. It's beyond that, Key. I mean, I'm gonna just keep it 100 with you. We saw a white girl in Iowa do it to a bunch of black girls. Well, of course. That made it like, that gained my respect. That gained my respect.
I hear you. You're
like,
right.
That's like, she didn't do this to some other little white girls that was over here in Colorado, wherever. She did it to some girls from LSU who we thought was some dogs.
Defending champs.
And put them on their knee and spanked them. And so I know, but I didn't expect that.
Paul Pierce.
Man, I expect more from a career professional like Paul Pierce. I mean, like, is it an underlying thing that we're all thinking about? Possibly. But like we'll never get past any of this stuff until we actually get past it and stop talking about it. Like I think it's unnecessary for Paul. I think it's dismissive of the game to say, "Oh, it's not interesting to me because it's great basketball. It's interesting to me because it's a white girl doing this to black girls." Like, it's not necessary, Paul.
Listen, like I get Paul's a ratings guy. He's going.
He's like a
he's
Jay Williams.
Sure, he's going to say something. When I watch Caitlin Clark and I see her on the basketball court, I'm not impressed because she's white. I'm not impressed with LSU because they're black. I'm not impressed with Kim Mulkey because she's white. I love basketball. Now, not everybody's me. Not everybody's you. Not everybody thinks the same way and feels the same way. However, I would hope, to your point, Diesel, that people will understand that it is about basketball. It doesn't matter what color she is because Caitlin Clark's just the best player on the floor. And if you didn't expect that, that may be a you problem.
Well, echoing your sentiments here, here is Gino Ariema, who knows a thing or two about basketball, saying exactly what you just said.
I hope Caitlin Clark had a personal agenda against LSU. And I know there's nothing personal between me and her, so I don't need to be seeing her drop 50 on us next weekend, So I love her. I think she's the best player. Forget I ever said Paige is the best player in the country. I think she's the best player of all time. I don't know whoever said that I said the Paige is the best player in the country.
He's trying to eliminate the billboard
I like
material,
it. I like
the
it.
bulletin board. He's like, I never said anything bad about her. Please don't drop 50 on us. Please, Caitlin Clark, don't do that to us.
That's great, man. You got to love Gino.
I do. I love Gino. When we come back, we're going to go back into the conversation. Would you give up a championship that your team has won to ensure that your rival never gets one? That's next here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, and we are the Fan upstate. It is the most electrifying, the most shocking, the most buzzworthy. How many more electricity puns can I come up with? Bzz. Brand new show here on the Fan Upstate. My name is Diesel. He is Cole Bryson. You want to be a part of the show? Well, by God, we want you to be.
Heck
we
yeah.
want you to sack up and call the show, would you? The renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. You can always text into the show, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. A lot of stuff to get to on the show today that we haven't even gotten around to mentioning yet because we've been so absolutely jam-packed. I don't know if you knew this, Cole, and everybody else in the listening audience. The NIT is still happening. And it's still a thing. Okay. We're coming up to the finals, and it is important to note that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and his Indiana State team are in the finals tomorrow night at 7:00 against Seton Hall. There you go. Atlanta has dropped game 2 to Chicago 3-2. The game 3 today was postponed.
Chicago weather, Diesel. Yep. That was not a good game last night. Atlanta had two chances. Top of the 8th, they had a chance. They had bases loaded. Austin Riley was at the plate.
It's not a team you should lose to.
No, and I was thinking during that 8th inning, if the bases are loaded and you're only down 1, Austin Riley's, he's the guy you want at the plate. Well, he grounded into a double play in the inning, and then top of the 9th. They did get a solo shot after Chicago scored another run, but just could not pull it out. And then today, obviously, the freaking weather once again in Chicago postponed.
Let's see here. Hornets coach Steve Clifford announced that he will step down at the end of the season. That's probably a good thing.
Take the probably off of that.
The Hornets have been bad. I'm blanking on his name. The coach before him was pretty good. Was it James Borrego?
I'm drawing a blank as well, but I'll tell you this. Steve Clifford is terrible. The ownership management, it's been terrible.
James Borrego.
Michael Jordan has done a god-awful job running that franchise. Now that he doesn't have the same control that he's had, maybe that'll help. But I'll tell you this, Steve Clifford's not the guy. Steve Clifford's never been the guy. And as an NBA fan, someone who wants this part of South Carolina so badly, Diesel, to be able to have an NBA team to support in the Charlotte Hornets just an hour up the road, Steve Clifford being gone is a good thing. However, I hate to say this, but with this situation, it's kind of similar to the Panthers. Even though Steve Clifford's gone, they still have bigger problems.
Yeah.
I don't think the Hornets have Panthers problems, but I will say they've got to get their ownership right. They've got to get their general management right, and they've got to figure out who they can get in here that's not on an AARP card and fix this thing, because I want the Hornets to be good. I love the NBA. I would love to be able to go to Hornets games and watch just an hour up the road, the LA Lakers or whoever, but it's not worth it because they stink. So Steve Clifford's never been the answer, and I'm glad that even though he's moving into a management position, which I hate.
He's a career sub 500 coach.
He's not good.
319 and 400 in his career, specifically in Charlotte. Steve Clifford has, Charlotte and with the Bobcats as well. He has a 196 and 214 record. I mean, here I am looking back fondly on the James Borrego era. Obviously, he was dealing with Michael Jordan as his GM, so that's a tough thing. That's really tough. 138 and 63. So no coach is particularly successful in Charlotte. And it's unfathomable just how popular the college game is in the state of North Carolina, and the NBA game is just not there. Some results for Clemson and South Carolina in their midweek games, and some games to look forward to. Clemson won yesterday 11-1 versus USC Upstate. As you pointed out, I didn't even know this was a thing in college baseball. They ruled them.
Yeah.
Clemson's on a 3-game win streak, number 2 in the country. Their next game will be coming up on Friday versus Notre Dame. Number 22, South Carolina. They're 21-7 overall on the season. Their next game is tonight versus Georgia Southern at 7:00. So just an hour away
Heck
from
yeah.
first pitch. South Carolina did take the series, lost this past weekend to Alabama. Big story, since we just spent a lot of time talking about this. Angel Reese has declared for the WNBA draft. She told Vogue magazine that she was declaring for the NBA draft. So there you go. There's a star exiting college basketball, women's college basketball, when they really need it. So Caitlin Clark, gone. Angel Reese, gone. Like, we're still going to have really good basketball at LSU, at South Carolina, at UConn. I don't know how good Iowa's going to be without Caitlin Clark, because when you look at the stat lines on those games, Caitlin Clark is Iowa basketball when she's putting up 30, 40, 50 a night. I mean, how are they going to be able to compete without her on a high level going forward? So that's going to be interesting to watch how the game changes and morphs. Like I said, I think all of this wave, this mania around Caitlin Clark in the game has certainly raised the ceiling, or excuse me, it's raised the floor for women's college basketball, but it's certainly not going to be at the heights of the ceiling, which is right now. I think we're at the ceiling of women's college basketball. Caitlin Clark is women's college basketball's Tiger Woods. She is the most marketable star and face that this game has ever had, and likely will have for a while. That's not to say that a star like her can't come along again. But, I mean, how many Caitlin Clarks are there out there? How many Jerry Wests were there out there? How many Pete Maraviches were there that were scoring at the clip that Pete and Angel, or that Pete and Caitlin did? Not that many.
No.
Not that many. More big news on today's Daily Wires. Camila Cardoso named the Defensive Player of the Year. You said earlier that she is just racking up.
She is.
Award after award after award.
She's impressive, man. Like, we don't talk about her in the same breath as everybody else, but she is the backbone of this team. She really is. And just to comment on a few of those wires that you did mention, Diesel, and I'll add one. Stephon Diggs today out of Buffalo, traded to the Houston Texans. Wow. Now all of a sudden C.J. Stroud has some weapons. But to go back to the Daily Wires that you brought up about South Carolina and Clemson baseball, South Carolina, they need this game tomorrow, or tonight rather, and then they have a tough one coming up this weekend. Clemson just absolutely manhandled USC Upstate last night. Just manhandled them. And what I do think that Clemson can take away from that is, yes, it's a midweek game. However, this Clemson team, this is not like a Monty Lee team, in my opinion. I remember those Monty Lee teams. You would get flashes at times. He had guys like Seth Beer where you felt like, oh, maybe this Clemson baseball team can make a run. But I really, for whatever reason, and maybe it's the pitching and combined with the way this offense can get on a run so quickly out of the gate, this Clemson team seems really impressive, up to number 2 in the country now. And, you know, they don't have the Seth Beer. They don't have the guy that you just know right off the top, but they really play as a team. And watch out. Watch out for Clemson, the ACC. And then going back to Stephon Diggs. Buffalo and Stephon Diggs, you saw this coming for a while, unfortunately. You saw frustration 2 years ago in the playoffs with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. Stephon Diggs throws his helmet on the ground. They get into it. They have a little bit of a confrontation, do Diggs and Allen. Then last season, Diesel, it seemed as if everything might be okay. Yeah, at times he did voice frustration on Twitter with the Buffalo Bills, and people hinted that he might have a reunion with his brother and come to Texas, Dallas, not Houston, and play with his brother Trayvon, and I think that would have been absolutely fascinating. However, Dallas, you know, they don't even know free agency's open right now, and Houston and D'Amico Ryans, oh my word, this is and Madcraft said traded for a bag of peanuts. This is an absolute monster pickup for Houston. I mean,
yeah,
what better way to help a young quarterback than give him Stephon Diggs? I love this.
Well, if you're the Carolina Panthers, I mean, you have to look at what Houston has done and look at that as proof that it is possible, because I mean, Houston's a few years ahead of Carolina when it comes to
They
the
are.
situation that they're in.
They have a head coach that's freaking awesome.
Right. They've got a good head coach. They were stockpiling picks. They got a ton for Deshaun Watson.
Yep.
And they've been building for a couple of years to this point.
Good ownership.
And then they added CJ Stroud, and he's the one who pushed them over the edge at the quarterback position. The Carolina Panthers are going at this sort of in the opposite direction. They stripped away everything they could. They didn't get anything for it. They drafted a quarterback who's tiny with no offensive line in front of him. I mean, the road is still steep in front of the Carolina Panthers. It feels like the Texans, if we're going to put this in a bicycling reference, they're at the mountaintop. They're at the point where it's downhill from here. Like things are going to get easier to pick up wins from here. You get to add a little piece, and you're in really great shape. I think the Houston Texans are going to be a real force this year in the NFL, whereas the Carolina Panthers, they still have years to go before they get there.
And Diesel, how much more does it hurt that Carolina's sitting there having to look at, only if we would have had a chance to take CJ Stroud. Oh, wait.
They did.
We did. Houston is in a division that's not the best. You have Jacksonville. We don't know
Take
what
advantage of it while you can.
Absolutely. You don't know what Trevor and Doug Peterson will figure out. Maybe they figure things out. The Colts and Titans.
Games in a weak division, it makes you attractive in free agency, and team players want to come play with you.
Well, I think what D'Amico Ryans has built, with great ownership, by the way, that the Panthers don't have. D'Amico Ryans is really building something special in Houston. We all knew that when he left San Francisco, wherever he went, he was going to be able to build something very similar, and that's what he's doing. They have studs on defense. Now they have a legit receiver, and, Houston's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
It's tough to watch a team who has the coach you could have got and the quarterback you could have got find success with both of them together.
That's rough.
And to know that could have been you.
That's rough.
That's rough.
Trey Davis on the stream says, I think Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark have a rivalry comparable to Bird and Magic back in the day. Hopefully it carries over to the WNBA. Trey, I love you. I appreciate you listening to this program. I hope you continue to listen to this program until you can't listen anymore. But, buddy, Trey, that is the absolute dumbest thing we've had texted in today to the program. Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark being in a comparable statement to Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Are you kidding me?
Officially stop caring about them the moment this tournament is over.
Can we stop the show? Stop the press? Trey, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Are you kidding me? I love you, Trey. I appreciate you. You're the man.
On relative
terms, oh my word.
On relative terms, maybe, but on equal footing, not even close.
Maybe Trey is saying, let me back up. Let me backtrack and maybe give Trey a chance to voice his opinion here. Maybe he's saying what you just said, maybe in terms of what they've done for the sport.
Yeah, relative to the women's game, that was a big deal rivalry. And it's sad that we only got it a few times, right? We only got it a handful of times in the women's game. So if we could have gotten it more and more.
But Larry Bird and Magic Johnson? Are you kidding me? Trey says, think about it. They had a rivalry throughout college. I hear you, Trey, and I hope you know this is all in fun. I'm giving you a hard time, but man, I'm an NBA guy. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, man, you better have a good comparison. Angel Reese, they're great. But that's a whole nother story. That's right.
Ludicrous statement. And we're going to get to it maybe here in the next segment. We definitely want to get back and circle back to this Rashee Rice story. Definitely going to come back to that.
We got to get back to that fast, right? Oh, was that too soon?
Yeesh.
Too soon?
Yes, let's race off to this break, and then we'll come back and talk about the puns are there.
They are everywhere. Do we get is this JD? Let's get JD in real quick. JD, what's up, man?
Hey, you guys just mentioned, the Angel Reese stuff and everything. So I just want to say, man, I can't believe that the national media has disrespected the Gamecocks as much as they have here. I mean, everything's been Angel Reese and her crown on the bench, and now it's on the couch at home And Caitlin Clark, she's great. She beat us last year and everything, but they just completely forgot about the Gamecocks.
JD, I'm going to tell you this might be the best thing that's happened to South Carolina in a while. The fact that nobody is talking about you as this elite, unbeatable juggernaut. I guarantee you, Dawn Staley is enough of a competitor that she is using this to fuel this team. And it's especially great considering the leads that South Carolina has given up in their past 2 games. So I know that fans want the national media talking about their team and saying nice things about their team as much as they can get it. But I'm going to tell you, JD, I think this is actually a good thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely agree. And Trey, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and the WNBA will not amount to Larry Bird. And he could have went up against a bench player and had a better rivalry than those two will wind up being in the WNBA. I have no faith in Angel Reese. Her eyelashes will get played off all over the place.
God,
I just wanted to get in on that.
Shots fired.
Get out of here. Have a good one.
Thanks, JD. JD really bringing the heat at Angel Reese.
Yeah.
Hey, who's to say Caitlin Clark will even be in the NBA?
That's right. She's
in
got
the
an offer.
the WNBA.
She's got an offer from the Big Three network, from the Big Three league.
Money talks.
$5 million a year to go be a sideshow. Go ahead and fit her for a red nose and a multicolored wig because she's going to turn into a clown if she goes and does this.
Come on, Diesel. Come on, man. Are you kidding me? Listen, it's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. It'll be interesting to see.
And again, you can pay me $5 million to be a clown, right?
Where's the line? Where's the line? Those were some good daily wires. All right, coming up next, I want to go back to something that we started the show with. We didn't finish it, Diesel. We had a ton of reaction on the stream and on the text line. And we are going to get back to our comparison of Spencer Rattler versus the other quarterback prospects in this year's draft head to head. All coming up, as well as your thoughts. This is the Fan Upstate. We're going to get back to Rashid Rice. We did discuss the Rashid Rice controversy story earlier in the show, but I do want to get back to something that we started the program with. And in order to get back to Rashid Rice, we have to rev this up and really hit this fast, Diesel, just to let you know. That's how we have to do this with the NFL draft being 3 weeks away. We compared Spencer Rattler head-to-head with some of the top quarterbacks in the draft, quarterback prospects, right? We compared them with Caleb Williams. The numbers there, Diesel, Caleb Williams' numbers and Spencer Rattler's numbers really aren't even on the same planet. We compared him with J.J. McCarthy. He's
a lot closer to J.J.
He
McCarthy
is.
than he is any of those other guys.
He is. He's a lot closer to J.J.
Closer to Drake Maye as well.
Drake May's numbers were obviously really good in 2002 or 2022 and 2023 because a lot of that had to do with the conference he played in. Jaden Daniels, what I did think was impressive about comparing Rattler head-to-head against Daniels, like maybe the more I dig on Jaden Daniels, the more I watch, maybe that's the guy we're sleeping on. Maybe that's the guy that's going to be the guy to come out of this draft and really surprise people. We talked about it earlier. I said it in case you missed it. I get that Caleb Williams is fantastic. I get that he, according to the experts, really has the best arm and on tape, he looks the best and the best statistics and the best mechanics, and he's built for the NFL, the big hands. I get all of that. But as I told Diesel, I am really, really big on where you land, your situation, who's around you, who's your coach, how's your ownership, how's your offensive line. Does the ownership, does the general manager put players around you to make you better?
We've seen elite players get ruined in the NFL.
Oh, ruined. So my point is that I made earlier, as much as I do think Caleb Williams is a fantastic player, if you're telling me today that Caleb Williams is going to go to Chicago and try to revitalize that franchise, and then maybe a guy like Spencer Rattler could go to San Francisco, and you tell me which one will have the better career, I think the situation matters a lot. I'm not saying Chicago's the worst situation to jump into. I just don't think it's great. Now, Diesel, players we have not compared him to: Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, Jordan Travis, for example. We'll start with Bo Nix. Off the page, you said earlier that Bo Nix was one of the two, in your opinion, who you thought would be
very successful.
Very, very successful in the NFL.
Yeah. You know what I like about, and it goes back to what you just said, Bo Nix is one of the less heralded of this class.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to get taken late in the draft or late in the rounds.
Sure.
Which means he's going to go to a better situation. He may not start immediately because, well, if you're good, meaning you're drafting at the tail end of the round, you probably have your quarterback situation relatively set.
Sure.
Probably. So Bo Nix, Michael Penix, maybe Jordan Travis, maybe Jaden Daniels, maybe J.J. McCarthy. I think these guys are going to go in the back half of the first round, which puts them in a better situation to be successful. Not this year. They're not going to be thrust out there to play in week 2 of the 2024 season. But give them time to develop, or they get traded off somewhere and they have a better career somewhere else.
Here's what I think is very interesting concerning Bo Nix, Diesel. Bo Nix, in my opinion, really had 2 careers, right? He had his 3-year career in Auburn, and then he had his 2-year career at Oregon. If you compare Bo Nix at Oregon to Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix really dominates Spencer Rattler head-to-head in the statistics. Bo Nix at Oregon this past year threw for 4,500 yards. In 2022, he threw for 3,500 yards, 29 touchdowns. 2 years ago, 45 touchdowns this past year to only 3 interceptions. However, Diesel, let's go look and see what life was like for Bo Nix in the SEC. Now, you might say, well, he didn't play as much at Auburn as he did at Oregon. Well, actually, he did. He played more at Auburn than he did Oregon. So the sample size is greater in the SEC. Spencer Rattler in 2022 threw for 326 yards, 18 touchdowns. He did have a high number of interceptions with 12 interceptions. 2022, or excuse me, 2021 at Auburn, Bo Nix, 2,294 yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So in back-to-back years, Spencer Rattler was better in 2022 than Bo Nix was in 2021. Well, what about 19 and 20 for Bo Nix? Not the best years, decent years, 2,500 yards both years, 2019, 2020, 16 touchdowns in 19, 12 touchdowns in 2020, 7 interceptions. In 2020, his touchdown-interception ratio was 12-7. In 2020, Spencer Rattler's touchdown-to-interception ratio was 28-7. So my point is, life's different in the SEC.
Sure it is.
You know, this Oregon, am I saying that Oregon doesn't play anybody and the defenses he goes against are absolute garbage? No.
Well, this is the reason why anybody, you have to qualify what it is you're saying. Your stats are, if you're going to argue that somebody is a good quarterback, your stats are never as bad as they are in the SEC because you're playing better defense.
Sure.
But you're also never as good as joining the Pac-12, who doesn't play defense, and lighting up, so you can't look at that and say, well, this is the end all be all reason why. I looked at a guy like Bo Nix and I say, well, he's throwing a lot of touchdowns in the Pac-12. That's great.
Right.
But he's also throwing very few interceptions in a league where you air the ball out all the time. I look at it not so much as he only threw 4 and that's what makes him great. Or he threw 45 touchdowns and that's what makes him great. I look at it as the ratio. The ratio is what makes him great. It's the ability to take care of the ball, even when he's asked to throw the ball a lot.
Sure.
And that's what's going to happen in the NFL. This is a quarterback-driven league in the NFL. These guys are going to be asked to throw the ball an awful lot. So if you're telling me I could put this guy in a situation where we're going to ask him to do this, which is a very similar situation where he was in the Pac-12, I feel more comfortable about his ability to be successful.
A ton of reaction coming in on both the stream as well as the text line. For those of you new to the program, you can text the show anytime, 71307. He's Diesel, I'm Cole Bryce, and this is Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate. Madcraft says, if the situation isn't terrible, Maye, I think, is the best prospect. Why is everyone putting Penix so low? Trey says on the stream, Bo Nix didn't look good against the NFL defense with the Georgia Bulldogs.
Well, that's a one-off. Again, Trey, I caution everybody, don't look at one data point and say, this is the reason that blank.
Sure. And no, I think that's fair. Jay Dizzle, says, this is Jay Dizzle with his missed Rattler take. 60% of quarterbacks drafted in the first rounds are bust, and talent just doesn't disappear. Rattler was among the best regarding his status and his high school status. He was a Heisman favorite at one point. Spencer will have a better career. Another texter says the most of the quarterbacks selected in this draft, if he ends up in the right situation, sit for a year and then play. I think that was still.
So one could argue based on JD's point here.
Uh-huh.
This is not me arguing this. This is me extrapolating. Okay.
Right.
One could argue that Spencer Rattler made a mistake going to South Carolina. It's a bold statement, but what if Spencer Rattler chooses an Oregon and he has a situation like Bo Nix was able to really improve his stats at Oregon as compared to the SEC?
It'd been interesting if Rattler would have started at South Carolina, right? Started at South Carolina, things didn't really go well. Then he goes to Oklahoma and lights it up. You could see that happening against, subpar defenses that Oklahoma faces. Another Tolo says there's no way the Bears kept their head coach and let him run a new quarterback. It's crazy. Spencer will have a better career than Caleb. A lot of reaction, Diesel, coming in that, and I know we're in a Carolina market, we're in a South Carolina Gamecock market, but a lot of reaction saying that Spencer Rattler will have a better career than Caleb Williams.
Well, yeah. And could you imagine if Spencer Rattler had been given the time to develop at Oklahoma? People forget that he was displaced by Caleb Williams. Had he stayed there at Oklahoma, or had he transferred to another school in the Big 12, doesn't play defense, could he have shown his skills off and ended up much higher on NFL draft boards because he was lighting it up in the Big 12 as compared to the SEC.
I think he could have. I think he could have. Now, when people bring up Michael Penix, being so low, we haven't really looked at Michael Penix against Spencer Rattler head-to-head. I don't want it to sound like I don't think Michael Penix is going to be successful in the NFL by any means, but Michael Penix wouldn't be in my top three. Started at Indiana, his last 2 years at Washington, 2022, 2023. Michael Penix was a little bit of a rushing threat as well at Indiana. He wasn't really at Washington. In Washington in 2023 last season, he did have almost 5,000 yards passing, 36 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. Very impressive. Quarterback rating of 157. The year before was very similar for Michael Penix, Diesel. Just over 4,600 yards passing, 31 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. So maybe Michael Penix is the guy we're not giving enough credit to. Maybe he's the one we're sleeping on. I still like Jaden Daniels out of everybody. I do think Spencer Rattler has a future in the NFL. I think Rattler, at the end of the day, I think he's a guy that will work hard to get a chance. I love what I've seen from Rattler at South Carolina in terms of his work ethic, the way that he handles the media. He's one of those guys that says everything right? South Carolina didn't have any problems out of Spencer Rattler. You want that. GMs in the NFL look for that. I think if he lands in the right situation, I do think Rattler has bright days in the NFL.
I mean, obviously situation matters. I mean, if you're Bo Nix, you struggle in the SEC, you go to a different situation in the Pac-12, and all of a sudden you look like a world beater. Another prime example of that is Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
Another prime example of that is Tom Brady. Guys who found themselves in the right situation. The NFL has the ability to make careers out of guys that may or may not, by right, on paper, look like they're going to be elite quarterbacks in the league. It also has a way of chewing up and spitting out guys who are elite in college. Look at the revolving door of elite quarterbacks that have come out of Southern Cal who haven't done a damn thing.
Let me ask you this question.
NFL.
Let's ask this, because you said Brock Purdy, and I agree. I'm very big on situation mattering. And Brock Purdy landed in probably the best situation he could have landed in.
Yeah.
Imagine life for Brock Purdy if he resided in Chicago, Illinois right now.
Exactly.
Would we even know who Brock Purdy was? I don't think so.
Yeah, if I'm one of these guys, I'm saying, hey, agents, work your magic. I want to be picked somewhere around 16, 17, 20, something like that. I want to go to a team that is in a good situation as far as having a good line, having a good running back, having good wide receivers, so that if I'm tasked to come in and start and play significantly as a rookie or as my second season in the league, I've got the pieces around me to be successful.
Billy D in the stream says in 2020 there was a mock draft that had the Carolina Panthers selecting Spencer Rattler number 1 in 2023. That one was a little off.
Oh, well, we can at least say that Spencer Rattler probably wouldn't have been sacked as many times as Bryce Young in Carolina. He had the ability. Bryce is not a mobile guy. Spencer is a mobile guy. Maybe he would have avoided a few of those sacks.
He might have.
Outside of that, I don't think it would have gone well otherwise.
He might have. Really good stuff, though, Diesel. I think it's fascinating. I do love the NFL draft, and we're 3 weeks away from that. Tomorrow will be 3 weeks exactly. I think the quarterback situation this year, with the amount of quarterbacks that there are, I think the quarterback situation is as fascinating as it has been in a while, because we don't really have a guy that we think is the Trevor Lawrence. The media is trying its best to make Caleb Williams that guy. I'm not so sold on that. I could be dead wrong, but I do think that there are quarterbacks in this draft like Jaden Daniels, like Drake Maye, who let them land in a right spot, because at the end of the day, Diesel, there are a lot of NFL franchises out there who, even though they have quarterbacks on their roster, and I can think of a couple off the top of my head like Washington and Dan Quinn, they're chomping at the bits to get one of these guys. And I think that there will be one or two guys from this quarterback class that surprises a lot of people, and I don't think their names will be Caleb Williams.
When we come back, we go back into the story of Rashee Rice and his joyride through Dallas that ended up very, very bad for him. You guys have been asking about this all day. We're going to close the show with it. That's coming up next here on Wire to Wire, a brand new show right here on the Fan Upstate with Diesel and Cole Bryson. You got to get your thoughts out there about this Rashee Rice story. Well, now would be the time. Text in 71307. We are the Fan Upstate.
Are we allowed sometimes to continue off-air conversations on air?
Of course we can.
I think it would be better not to sometimes, right?
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to zoom through the last 10 minutes of Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryce, and we're going to drop in as many car puns as we can because the big story of the day is that the Kansas City Chiefs, Rashee Rice, got himself into some trouble, Cole.
Man.
He got himself into some trouble driving fast cars at a high rate of speed through downtown Dallas.
Man.
Caused an accident on the highway, piled some cars up, sent somebody to the hospital. Thank God didn't kill anybody.
Thank God.
But, man, this story has just got so many layers. Like, first of all, right there, you're thinking, all right, this is bad. A young, rich athlete in a fast car racing on the highway, high rate of speed, got into an accident. Well, that's bad. If that by itself was the story, it's bad. It was his car. One of the Corvette was registered to him, according to Atolo Frank earlier in the show. The Lamborghini was rented, so now he's got that to deal with as well.
Adding fuel to the fire.
He just demolished a rented vehicle, a rented Lambo. But you add on top of that the fact that they injured somebody, sent somebody to the hospital. You add on top of that cell phone footage and dash cam footage after the accident, saw him get out of his car. They saw guns, and then they saw a bag, multiple bags, be scooped up, and then they all took off running.
Got out of Dodge.
Just makes this look worse and worse and worse with every layer of this that we peel back.
I don't know, man. Somebody just maybe we're making too much of this. Maybe somebody just needs to give this guy a break.
Maybe they were all squirt guns. Like maybe they weren't real guns. Maybe they were, just water pistols.
You missed it.
Oh, give this guy a break. Yeah, okay.
Oh, Diesel, you missed it. He would have used one if he had it.
Too bad your joke crashed and burned. But, I mean.
God, Billy D, that's brutal. They keep coming, the puns. What are the odds that they were listening to Tracy Chapman or Luke Combs when they wrecked those cars? That is terrible, but hilarious.
Oh, man.
Oh, man, Billy.
The question becomes with all of this, and look, again, each layer of this is bad.
Sure.
Wrecking a fast car, driving recklessly, in the middle of the daytime, injuring somebody, guns visible in some of these videos. We don't know yet what was in the bags.
We assume they weren't canned goods.
Right. He wasn't on his way to drop off toys at the local shelter to the kids. I mean, we have to assume there was something illegal in those bags. And the fact that they took it all and ran, like it was a hit and run. That's illegal. You can't do that. It's a hit and run. And I just think to myself, Roger Goodell has no other choice but to drop the hammer on Rashee Rice in a way that we've seen the NFL drop the hammer on some offending athletes. I mean, this is different from a lot of the stories that we've seen in the past. But take it easy on other athletes. I think, look, I've had my problems with the NFL over the years, and it's the selective enforcement of rules. It's the statements that say, we support women, we believe in keeping women safe, and then not really doing anything about it when athletes are videoed beating the crap out of women. I mean, it just says to me, ladies, we want your money. We want you to buy these special pink jerseys. We want you to buy these purple uniforms. We want you to, when you come into the stadium, we want you to buy a ribbon and put it on your jersey. But we don't really care if somebody beats the tar out of you.
I think that Rashee Rice, and I don't know how old Rashee Rice is. I would guess, let's see.
He's just a few years out of college, so he's got to be
23,
21, 20.
23. I hit it on the head.
23.
I guess that. But I will say 23-year-old, like, as much as we do make jokes, I would at the same time, in the same token, say, I get that the wreck was a terrible mistake. and you were going way too fast. You were racing a Corvette and a Lambo, whatever it was. Like, that happens. I would imagine that
happens when you're doing it illegally.
Right.
Let's not pretend like these cars just go fast without somebody touching the gas pedal.
No. I'm just saying this. Rashee Rice, at 23 years old, with a ton of money. I understand how things can snowball quickly if you have never been in that kind of situation before, right? Grew up in Dallas. He went to SMU, downtown Dallas. He's from the area. He knows his way around Dallas. And now all of a sudden he's got a bag that's bigger than any bag he could ever thought. I understand that things happen. My biggest concern, my biggest problem with this is the fact that when it did happen, he didn't own up to it. He didn't stay there and wait on the police. He got his guys and they ran. Like, that to me, that's where I have an issue. Like, if the story would have came out, Diesel, and we would have heard that Rashee Rice did this, it was terrible. Thankfully, nobody died, as you said, but the cops came. They, gave him a ticket, whatever it was, penalty, jail time, whatever that may be, whatever the penalty for this is, I would understand a lot better. And I don't think it would be as big of a story if he didn't flee the scene. I'm not giving Rashee an out or giving him an excuse or a cop out or anything. I'm just saying that fleeing the scene's the part that really does it for me. That's the part that I have to.
I look at
that's
each
rough.
Individual part of this as a slap on the wrist kind of offense. Maybe not the guns, but driving fast cars, getting into an accident. If that's all the story was, that's a slap on the wrist from the NFL. If a player is pulled over and it's deemed that he had a gun on him, let's just say it's legal, nothing happens.
Right.
If it's illegal, probably nothing happens, because we looked up the NFL's gun policy and it says you can't possess a firearm while you're essentially operating on team business. I don't know what their policy specifically is on illegal firearms, a non-registered firearm, but I mean, it seems like that's another slap on the wrist kind of offense. Like you deal with that charge and that's it. But when you talk about all of these things together, which is just a series of bad decisions, not a bad decision. This is a series of bad decisions. Rich young athlete gets in his car. Rich young athlete goes down to the rental office, goes to the local Hertz, rents a Lamborghini, then gives the keys to his buddy. Then they go driving around at 150 miles an hour. Then they get into an accident. Then they hide their guns. Why would they hide their guns if they were legal to have them?
Yeah.
And then they hide whatever else is in the bags and they take off running. All of these things combined.
A lot of good feedback from you on the stream as well as the text line. Do want to get to Rick before we end the program, who has some thoughts on the Rashee Rice situation. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, Diesel. I don't always agree with you, but I agree with you. But this time, why do you think he ran away? He had drugs in the car. He couldn't stay. He had guns and drugs. He was looking at 20 to 30 years.
Yeah.
It's easier to run than stay there and get the 20 to 30 years. He couldn't stay.
Well, Rick, and we did make that point earlier in the show.
Right.
But yeah, then you add the fleeing the scene to it, and that makes it even worse. Yeah, it's you're kind of screwed either way, no matter what you do.
You're right.
And we talked about it earlier. Everything is on camera now. People have dash cameras. People have cell phone footage. He left the car there.
If he couldn't stay, he probably had cocaine in the bag.
Yeah. Well, now they can't prove, if they can't find the bags, they can't prove what was in the bags.
Well, we can all agree, Rick and Diesel, that the biggest mistake was being in the car with those guys with the guns and the bags in the first place.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick, great stuff, man. We appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks, Rick. Yeah, it was just all of these things. You can't a slap on the wrist offense in the NFL is you made a mistake. This dude, Rashee Rice, made like 10 mistakes.
Right.
In a very rapid succession.
And again, I do want to say, we don't know 100% what was in the bags, but we're just saying
it's a fair guess.
It's a fair guess.
To say whatever's in the bags were illegal.
Well, if they weren't illegal, Diesel, there's a good possibility that, as Rick said, they would not have ran.
If what was in the bag was legal, you would have left the bags behind and ran.
Sure.
If it really was your dirty laundry,
sure.
If it was your practice shorts because you were headed off to a practice, to a voluntary workout with you and your buddies,
yeah,
then you would have left the bag behind. I mean, like, you get into that accident, you don't say, "Ooh, man, I got to make sure that my tube socks are with me. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm going to do after this."
Listen, as much as I hate this situation, as much as I do not like the NFL being in the news for the wrong reasons, we've seen consistency of this. Like, not every player does this. I'm not casting a bad light on NFL players
But there's a constant stream of players doing it.
There is. And that is what concerns me.
It's a microcosm of our society, though. I mean, there will always be new idiots doing idiotic things.
And
sometimes
you give
it's the same idiotic things, sometimes it's new idiotic things.
And the reality of it is, you give an idiot money, those idiot things that he does are going to be even worse, right?
Yeah.
So my hope is that the NFL does come down on Rasheed and give him the proper punishment. I don't even have any idea what that'll be. Diesel said earlier that he thinks that he should never play football again.
Out.
Just done. Listen, I don't know. I think it does have to be pretty severe. I think it does have to be at least a year, because we've seen what John Morant and the NBA have had to deal with these ongoing issues. So we will see. I think there's more to this story, and I think we will continue to learn more. Diesel, great job as always. Tolos, we appreciate you. That stands for Turn It On, Leave It On. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Fan Upstate.
Tolos, JD, Madcraft, Trey from Kentucky, Billy D, all of you guys who were in the stream all day, thank you so much. 155 still in the stream at the end of the show. That's huge. That's epic, and we can't do it without you. We want to keep this thing growing. Thank you so much. We will see you guys back on the stream tomorrow. Bye, guys.